A funny story.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 5th Select Board meeting. We are being recorded, and if you wouldn't mind rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're not going to go through this again, are we? Are we doing this again tonight?
Yes, so the principal has beat me to the next announcement, which is we are in the school building and they are having open house, so we will be periodically hearing the announcements go off. There were some technical upgrades being made to the senior center, which is why we are not there tonight. So, and we appreciate the school moved things around so that we could have this room, so appreciate that. Thank you. We will start with the town administrator's report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First, I wanted to highlight something that was talked about a little bit at the last meeting that happened today. Anthony Athanas and his family and the team hosted seniors from the Housing Authority today at the restaurant, and we wanted to thank them for their generosity and the commitment to the community. I know the Housing Authority was represented there as well as quite a few residents, so we really appreciate that. I've got a quick round of news that I wanted to update as well, and then I'll get into a few more specific updates. Governor Healy's office released earmarks. There were two in particular that are coming to the community. One is for new equipment in the kitchen at the senior center. The other one is approximately $35,000 towards the high school track, which we anticipate will be used in the planning and or design, depending on what goes next. I think that in talking to Max and Gino, it is not necessarily enough to make spot improvements, so we're going to put it to good use to plan for future investment, most likely. I also wanted to thank Jody Watts and the team with the War Memorial Scholarship Committee. They've been selling sponsored bricks that have raised approximately $7,000 for the scholarship fund, so that's something that we are also very proud of. Since we last met, we also received word that the park grant that community development had sought for the Abbott Playground was awarded. That is related to one of the articles that we'll be talking about on the draft warrant tonight, but we were very excited to hear from them as well. And then I also wanted to personally thank Heidi and the team at the Senior Center. I was the fortunate or unfortunate center of the Lunch and Learn the other day. There were a lot of great questions. I'm not sure that everyone loved all of my answers, but it was a great meal and I enjoyed going and sort of working the room and talking to folks at each table in addition to answering the Q&A. So I wanted to thank them for having me. To get in some of the highlights from the TA report, from the HR side, it's been a busy couple of weeks. We first want to welcome Crystal, who has joined our customer service team. She is actually working right now with Patrick at Town Hall. We're very excited to have her coming on board. She's coming from a background in banking. She fantastic in the interview process, was very excited to join and wanted to welcome her.
Sorry, what was the role there?
Customer service.
Oh, okay.
It's a customer service rep. One of our reps is moving to the building commissioner's office as a full-time admin there, and this was the backfill for that, so we're excited to have her. In addition, between police and fire, for fire we have extended 4 conditional offers. One is a lateral, the other 3 are all new. They were great interviews. In addition, the police have extended 2 conditional offers for new police officers. They literally accepted them on the spot. They were fantastic. In both the police and fire cases, everyone is really committed to the community and the region and is very excited to be coming here to Swampscott, so we're looking forward to having them. I know both chiefs are working really hard to get through the background process and other pieces to get them into academies as soon as possible for both police and fire. Again, they were very excited to be coming to Swampscott, and so we're really looking forward to having them. In addition, we posted the town clerk and finance director position since we were last here. We discussed the finance director, and the assessor position was one that has been posted. We have not had a lot of great candidates yet, but we are reposting with MMA to see if we might attract some other candidates. We have not yet adjusted the salary. If anything like that were to come forward, I would come to you all to sort of discuss what the thinking is around that. The Board of Assessors have sent a memo to me, and I've spoken to Paul a little bit about ways that we might be able to look at either reorganizing or staffing differently. So I would anticipate I will come back to you in the future, but for today I just wanted to let you know that it's been reposted. In addition, with the police department, they were recognized and awarded full accreditation from the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission. You may have seen that in the line item, but it was a lot of hard work from leadership and officers, so we're very thankful for that. On capital planning, Patrick's been leading the review of the capital spend for this year as well as new request. We will be almost complete with that by tomorrow, because we had anticipated that tomorrow was going to be the first of the financial summits. So that'll give us a little more time to digest, but we've been going through and really it's helped me get a real sense for where we are and what the requests are on the horizon. It's sort of a background on community meetings that I've been having. In addition, the last 2 weeks, we had a couple of great sessions related to both the Kings Beach UV project as well as the community space in Hadley. And I think in both of those cases, the town staff certainly left with a better understanding of what the community had for concerns, and it will put us in a better position. Speaking specifically on the Kings Beach project, I do want to highlight that Gino is working to schedule them to come into our next meeting to speak to you all about both the report that was completed, and there's been discussion around a potential future project in conjunction with Lynn that, again, we had not only said at the town hall, but I've also communicated since then, we need Kleinfelder to be in front of you all before we're in a position to move forward in any way with any potential scope for a future project. So that's what we're hoping to do at the next meeting, to get you up to speed on where we currently stand. And with that, I would be more than happy to answer any questions you may have based on your packets, or if you have anything else for me.
Questions for Nick?
Has the Kleinfeld report gone in front of the Water Sewer Commission?
I believe they met last week. Gino attended that meeting.
Did they review the report?
I believe they did, and I think the goal that Gino had talked about both before and after with me was the idea that and I don't want to speak too far for him if they're going to be in 2 weeks, but the idea was to make sure that the committee was focused on the charge that they have before them, in addition to reviewing that report, so that we can understand from a technical level, in addition to whatever town staff came up with, that if they had questions, they would be raised as well.
Sounds good.
So is the plan then to have them join us in that conversation?
We can. I don't.
Or just
as of today, I've only
somebody-
talked to Gino about
Okay.
scheduling Kleinfelder, but we can absolutely make sure that they get the invite, and certainly hope to have them here. If it means that we have to wait 2 more weeks to get the right people in the room, then we can also do that.
Go ahead, Doug, sorry.
No, I was going to change topics. So,
Please.
Small but not a small thing. Health Department, this 4-part series on mindful parenting and stress reduction. It's terrific. And two little, what is this? Is this from the ARPA funding? We did a lot of mental health funding.
Judging by the vigorous nodding, I would say yes, it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It's all through the ARPA funding.
Yeah, okay, great. And then this is like in the morning on a Friday, which I know for some parents would work terrific.
Parents, it could be very stressful.
For other parents, it could be add some stress, right? Or it could be time off work, I don't know. But I haven't taken note of the 4 parts and whether or not we're scheduling some on the weekends and that type of thing. So minor point, but.
I'll make sure to talk to Jeff. I do not know when the other ones are scheduled for.
Yeah.
They're all on Friday.
They're on Fridays.
Wow.
At different times, or?
No, I think it's the same time, at 9:45 to 11:30 Friday mornings, before Fridays.
All right,
It's a note we can share with Jeff for future programming.
great. Danielle, you good?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Nick, for the update. We will move to public comment. As always, public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. I will keep time. It's not personal, it's just in order to keep time. And please state your name and your address, please.
Hi,
Hi.
Deb Newman, Barnstable Street. I believe that your understanding is that you'll be considering the proposed rodenticide bylaw for the spring warrant, but just in case you would consider it for the upcoming warrant, I'd be happy about it. I have slightly amended it and left some copies and I'll send some to Diane also later on. Just so you know, there's less of the concern about being inhumane. It does contain alternatives to the anticoagulant rodenticides that nobody wants, and I know that we're not using them in Swampscott, which is fabulous. So, but there are other things, and of course, there's integrated pest management, which would maybe we wouldn't have to use the cholecalciferol and CO2 and the corn gluten, which are, you know, poisons and make the rodents suffer also. But those are in there as emergency types of management, but with an emphasis on more humane methods, snap traps and the contraception, which is happening at the fire station right now and going great. So if you'll consider putting it on this upcoming warrant, that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you. We have a hand raised online, so if you don't mind, we'll go there next.
Hi, Bill.
You should be able to unmute, Mr. Demento.
Now I've been able to do it. It's Bill
Perfect.
Demento, Precinct 6, 1008, Paradise Road. This afternoon, after seeing a notice there's going to be an auction at the Hawthorne, it was sent to me. I had the thought that I better read the lease and the purchase and sale agreement that I happen to have had. And I'm wondering when you're going to tell the public that the heat's going off and the purchase and sale agreement and the lease agreement don't refer anything that I can see. I know I'm old and tired and all that stuff, but if there's some provision in there, they can take the ovens and turn them and have the building so it's no heat in it. I can't find it. And I'm hoping that, I was hoping that when this meeting started, you'd inform the public about what on earth is going on. Are we facing a winter where that building's gonna freeze up because all the ovens and everything else that is labeled? What's going on? That's my question. And I know you don't answer questions from public comment, which is always a shame. In New York City, they answer the questions as of today. But that's my comment. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Demento.
Stay tuned. Maybe the answers will be forthcoming.
Perhaps, please.
Now you got me excited.
Always our aim. Mr. Patsios, please.
Hi, Charlie Patsios, Atlantic Ave, Swampscott. I'm also a member of the Board of Assessors, and I'm glad to hear that Nick had mentioned that the job's been reposted. But I urge that the board consider something really important. We run this town because we receive tax revenue. The tax revenue is a result of what the Select Board sets as a tax rate. And it sets the tax rate based on what the Board of Assessors or the assessor himself, she or he, submits to the state, and the state approves, and then you get to set the tax rate. With a part-time assessor, that job is going on very slowly. We cannot do the work that's necessary. And the Department of Revenue has informed the town not once, not twice, but repeatedly that we need a full-time assessor. You've advertised the job at roughly $85,000, grossly inadequate. You posted a recreation director at that number, and you've realized how low that was, and you gave a 25% increase over that. The most important job that we are not only underfunding but haven't filled is a full-time assessor, and the state agrees with me, and I agree with the state. We need a full-time assessor that's properly funded so that the tax rate is based on true market value of the homes and not an adjustment to the tax rate, because that's the only mechanism that the Select Board so far has used, I would say, to the best of their ability, but it's inadequate. So I urge that the Select Board carefully think about properly funding a full-time assessor at market value so that we can get the job done properly. Thank you.
you, Mr. Patsios. Please, Ms. Lau. Oh,
Maybe not.
thank you.
Hi, Joe Negri, the UV pilot nemesis guy. So I have,
Just don't mind stating your address.
it's 10 Ocean Street in Lynn. I have two public records requests that are past due, one from October 15th and one from October 30th, that I've received no response from the town clerk after repeated questions about what was going on with it. So I need that information produced. The first request was a $600 fee to get that produced. I haven't seen anything. So need to know what's going on and need to have those documents produced. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, folks. Mara Lau at Lick Road. Just same old kind of thing, but here I go. So I'd love to see a walk through Hadley School for the community. It should have and still should happen for the reasons of a community event and as a reminder of history so that so many adults and children to enjoy a look back we would all appreciate that and like that. I feel that there should be a walkthrough simply because we'd like to highlight the current community that the town ignored basic maintenance and upkeep for a solid half century. The building was a continually operating school for 113 years, and we should recognize and be aware of the decrepit conditions that our students, our youngest town community members, our teachers, our support staff, and administration navigated in a building that was largely ignored, missing significant upkeep milestones for decade after decade. Past inactions we, as a town, should not repeat. However, our teachers made it a wonderful place to learn, and I certainly appreciated their heroic efforts to keep teaching and learning in the forefront of each day. Teachers do make a difference. I know that repeatedly it has been said that the public has, switching now to the new piece, public has been said that have input that the process that will be followed, but already just a year into the signing of the LDA, the process of informing the public has been poor. The schematics were presented at a select board meeting, then at a public Hadley schematics meeting, then the schematics were presented at a planning board meeting, and then this past Monday at the Hadley schematics meeting with Mr. Mallory. The first public meeting was the only one of those meetings that was advertised well and sufficiently. The others were just not, or at all. The more neighborhood eyes that we can get on this project, obviously, the more successfully it will land. As I have stated so many times, this town has a process and a communication problem that we'd really like to see resolved. Questions raised at these meetings that I know will continue to be covered. I'm mentioning a few of them here.
20 seconds more.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Taxes, it would be really terrific if pilot could be explained to the town members here, describing what was signed in the LDA. That has been entirely presented, and it would have been great if there was a select board member at one of those meetings to explain the finances to the town.
We've reached 3 minutes.
Okay. 2 more quick points. The lining up of the entrance of the parking lot at Blaney is a really important point.
If you wouldn't mind emailing your points.
So what I'm going to say is, if Diane
Maura.
can turn this all in, I have it all printed for her.
Perfect. That would, thank you very much. Just trying to keep it fair. Please.
Katie Arrington, 40 Roy Street. I cede my time to Mara Lau.
Okay.
We don't do that. We don't do that.
How it works.
I mean,
We don't do
sorry?
that.
That can't be how this
We
works.
can't, we
Can't
can't,
be what? Sorry.
That can't be, doesn't work like that.
We can't do that. I'm being told we cannot do that. I appreciate the effort, and we will still take Ms. Lau's comments.
So
into
much of these
consideration.
things have been covered, and I will pass them on to
Thank
Jen.
you. We have additional public comment. Seeing none, we will move on to new and old business. Oh.
The end of round one.
Sorry, we're just taking a moment for the announcement. We have AP Civics happening in B129.
I don't know about AP.
Okay, at the request of Mr. Demento, we are talking about the Hawthorne Restaurant site. That's just a joke. This was on the agenda anyways. Take it away, Nick.
Sure. So I wanted to provide an update based on the timeline starting with the last meeting, which was October 22nd. I will go through the notes I have here, then happy to try to answer any questions that you all may have, but ultimately it's going to open up to discussion for you all. So just to start the timeline, the 22nd was the last meeting we had. On the 23rd, we received notice from the Athenas family and their attorney that they would not be continuing to operate past the agreement that they currently have with the community. The authorization for that expires on December 31st. I believe their agreement is a little earlier in the month, just based on when it was signed. So that left us with the idea that we would, spend a little more time on the staff side looking at what the options and what could happen. That was on the 23rd. That following weekend, which I guess would have been the 24th, 25th, we also found out that there had been an auction posted for some of the items that are currently personal property within the building. And from there, I asked staff and others, KP Law and others, to help prepare for a number of different options that would provide you all with as much flexibility and as much information as possible to make informed decisions. Starting on October 30th, we had a call with Anthony and his attorney that included staff and Mary Ellen representing the board. In that call, we requested they consider the possibility of staying open beyond the currently signed agreement, and they took that under consideration, getting back to us at the beginning of this week. That was not something they were able to do, but we were gracious that they took the time over the weekend to sit down as a family and discuss. So we appreciated that information. In addition, in light of the fact that the reuse committee for the property is still ongoing, we asked about the possibility that equipment may be able to be left in place in sort of a delay of the auction, not knowing what the final outcome or what the final use of the property or the building would be. That was a request that we asked them to consider as well. With the idea that if the building is staying or if there is a delay before the demo, we would not want the building, if possible, to be vacant for an extended period of time. And perhaps we would go before town meeting to ask for authorization for another, to give you all the authorization again to seek another tenant on a short-term basis or depending on the work of the reuse committee, something beyond that. They are generally open to hearing what we intend that request to mean. The framework is that we would come to some idea tonight of how the town would like to move forward, what may be on the town meeting warrant, and then we would communicate that with Mr. Peterson, the attorney, and again, it would be an informed discussion on the family side to figure out what might work for them and what may not. It was requested that this plan would, give them a sense of the schedule, and in talking to KP Law, where we are, what was suggested on our end is that we would consider the idea of going back to town meeting, whether in a special town meeting or as an article for December 1st, that would give you all the ability to extend the agreement either for a short or longer term tenant, or also an agreement that is not occupancy and use, but something that allows them to leave the equipment in there while the town figures out what that next step is. And any decision on a short or long-term occupant could be made at a special town meeting following the conclusion of the reuse committee's work and following our December town meeting. Again, it's a timing issue that we're looking for some guidance to understand from you all what you would like us to do. From here, I've also requested KP just gather up information about RFPs or other types of requests where, again, if the board and the community decides that we want to move forward with seeking a tenant, that we are not starting from scratch, but that we will receive some of that information from KP in advance so that we can be taking a look at it. We also, another piece that I wanted to highlight in here is that, and I think the public comment alluded to this, in looking at the items listed, we, KP, Marzi's team, and the building commissioner all had a few questions, probably a dozen items or so, that we're uncertain if they should be left with the building when vacated or not, and we've prepared and shared that list with the attorneys on the Athanas family side so that they can give their feedback to those questions as well. Again, I would guess it's in the 12 to 15 range of all those items. I could be a little off there, but it wasn't a huge number, but it was certainly items that we want to make sure everyone has an open discussion about between the family and our attorneys. So we shared that today. We expect feedback later in the week from them as well on sort of what their position is on any of those questions. So from here, where we are is I would love to have an understanding from you all of how you would like us to proceed. We do have a draft article. Should we decide to consider that this evening, that would be under that agenda item, which I believe is number 6 on the agenda. We wouldn't get into that now. That would be part of that discussion. That is just a draft with placeholder language that does not have an expiration date. So it basically says authorizing the board to enter into an agreement with a tenant until, and there's no date. And so that would be where we would decide as a short, long term, how we want to proceed with that. It could also be something that we put before town meeting or on the warrant for town meeting as a placeholder to allow the reuse committee to have the full array of options in front of them. And then if needed, it can be removed, postponed, withdrawn, whatever vehicle we choose if it just isn't appropriate to be acted on at the time. So that's how we tried to attack multiple angles all at once. But I think where we are right now, both in the discussions with the Athanas family, their attorneys, and on the staff side, is trying to get a really full understanding of where you would like us to move forward so that we can narrow down that scope and begin to execute there. With that, I would open it to questions.
I have a preliminary comment.
Please.
Just thank you very much, Nick, for taking the ball from where it was and doing all that anticipatory, preparatory work to kind of lay out all the different permutations of what could happen. It certainly is extremely facilitating of our work here. So thank you.
And I thank you particularly to Marzi's team, but also the building commissioner and KP were very responsive as we've been trying to track down these individual questions and comments. But Marzi's relationship with the attorney for the Athanas family and the fact that we've been working closely with them over time, I think has really allowed us to do this and to be very, honest and direct with them, saying we need direction from you, but here's what we're thinking. And it's been a really good conversation, and it's a credit to the community development team.
All right. So I guess if you wouldn't mind saying, Nick, you mapped out a lot of plans,
Yep.
right? So there's a couple of avenues we have available to us given this information. Again, I guess now might be a good time to talk about an avenue Nick didn't bring up, which is that we, as the public knows, we have been in conversations related to the adjacent parcel, the church parking lot, we'll call it, for lack of a better terminology. We, as a board, voted to support an LOI going forward to negotiate a purchase of a portion of that parcel, not the full parcel, a portion of that. And obviously that's contingent upon town meeting vote. It's a non-binding LOI that we'd be putting forward. It's a shape to be determined because of some constraints on the church's part. And so I just want to put that forward because it does really shape the conversation as we move forward. And that's a bit of information, obviously, that we have spoken about in executive session and we would like to make public so that when we talk about some of the Hawthorne pieces, they sort of fall a little bit more into the puzzle. So I wanted to mention that.
Can I add to that?
Please.
Just for everyone's understanding, we have had conversations with the Monsignor.
Yes.
There's not an LOI signed, It's in the drafting stage. There have been conversations. There's, you know, a high-level verbal understanding, but many, many details still to be worked out, which may not get worked out. And the Archdiocese is actually the owner.
Yeah.
So there's many, many steps before anything would happen.
Right, and that's a great point, Doug. That's why you don't see it on the warrant for December, because there's a lot of steps that need to be fleshed out before we even get to that, if we even get to that, you know.
Could I just underscore that the important distinction is that it's a letter of intent to continue the discussion.
That's what an LOI means. So.
Right. It's a letter of intent to continue the discussion, and it is not an offer to purchase, which would be binding if they were to just sign, or we were to sign. You know, it is really it's a framework that we're agreeing to continue the conversation.
Yep. Yes. Thank you, Nick.
And this is the second letter that we have had with the Archdiocese. The first letter was expired in December, and so we're just keeping the ball going.
And it would be, the first letter was with the church, not the Archdiocese, right? Just to be super clear.
Yep.
This one would be the same.
Yes. Yep. Okay, so having said that, then sort of creating the full framework of the Hawthorne conversation, if you could just sort of give us the choices again.
Okay.
Sort of.
So the one choice is to the opposite of the public comment, which would be leave it vacant and let the town decide what's going to happen. But we're carrying a more expensive building. We're worrying about what's going on in there. And, you know, there could be further deterioration. The ideas that we have discussed is an agreement that would allow them to leave the property in the building until the spring, sort of a delay of the auction, which we would need an authorization of some sort for. The goal with that would be that in tandem there would be either a short or long-term tenancy, so that that equipment is there as a potential benefit for both the family that's selling it and for a future potential tenant, that they would have an opportunity to negotiate directly prior to any other sale. The other option is a long-term, look for an RFI process. Both these, the short-term and the long-term, require an RFI or an RFP process where we are going through you know, a 30B process to make sure that it is a legal, open, and fair solicitation, and we're able to get the best value to the community. But it's a question of timing in terms of, do you want it to be a 12-month, 36-month, or many years? You know, so it's a question from a policy standpoint that I think that would definitely need to be informed by the work of the reuse committee and your future consideration of the recommendations that they bring before you. So, you know, in terms of an article, there's an authorization to work with the Athenas family to leave the property behind for a short time, and then there's what we would like to do with an RFP and a longer-term tenant, if that is a short or long-term tenant, if that's what the community would like to do while we plan for future development, demolition, keeping whatever the final sort of recommendation and decision that's made.
Can you remind us when we've slated demo?
In the capital plan,
budget?
it's 28.
Okay, 2028.
That's the plan that was presented last year.
Okay. So, go ahead. I was just going to say, so in actuality, as much as we would have loved the Athenas family to stay, they're not interested. It worked for us for a period of time. It worked for them also. It's no longer the case. So obviously, to Mr. Demento's point, like, we don't want, I don't want a vacant building. It's more expensive. It's dangerous. It's, you know, it's more expensive to insure. We have to carry the cost of heating and electricity. And so obviously I much prefer a building that is the heart and vibrant in that area and, you know, causing people to come and enjoy that building. So I guess, I don't know how other people feel, but if we're talking about on the Capitol until 2028, we're not, even if the reuse committee says the end use is X and it doesn't involve that building anymore, we're talking at least 2028. that it is still standing. So,
Well, so my opinion is, there's a couple things. One is, we don't want a building just sitting.
Right.
And we want to be able to have the option of having, at a minimum, a short-term tenant come in, if that's viable, short-term tenant come in and have a facility going there. Having those options, I think, is vital. As far as having a recommendation from the reuse committee, the charge of the reuse committee was to give us recommendations on what to do if we had a single lot. And I think that the reuse committee is almost finished with that charge, and I think at that point, we should be moving on from that, and then see what happens with the final negotiations, and then make a decision from there. I don't see this as super complicated. I'd like to see an RFP put out ASAP, like tomorrow morning, and just get somebody in there so that we have opportunity to keep the heat on and keep a function type of a center. I think it could be could be great. And if the Athanases are willing to leave the equipment and,
They're open to the discussion. They wanted to hear what our timeline was after tonight.
Yeah.
I just want to
right,
make sure I wasn't misstating.
great. So that's my feelings on that.
I agree with all that, especially the ASAP part. No. So, no. Yeah, basically ditto. And do we feel as though that's a realistic possibility of them holding off on the auction? And if, in the main question you've asked that we haven't really answered is the length of time that we would want to extend for. And I would, is there any drawback to making that, well, there's two pieces. When they would do an auction or not, and then how much longer we want a town meeting authorization for some other potential tenant to be able to stay for, right? And it's going to be, I would think, very difficult, more difficult for someone to make the effort to inhabit that if it's a very short period of time.
right, it's not, to your point, it's not realistic. It was realistic for the Athanas to go year to year because they were there.
already there, right?
How realistic is it for us to find a tenant for a year there with, potentially without equipment, hopefully with equipment, but.
So, I mean, I would, I don't, we haven't really kind of focused on this, so it's hard to be very specific, but I think it should be like a year or more. If we're really not planning on demolishing it, I mean, we theoretically could do it sooner. I mean, that's just a plan where we have it planned in 2028. But I think there's a lot of things in motion. We don't want to lock ourselves in too long. If we come to a plan and we want to start moving on it, and now we've got someone in there that's got a lease for 3 years, that's not great. But we have to kind of find a balance there. So maybe we should be looking for an authorization from town meeting that's, I don't know, a year, 18 months, up to that period of time, to give us the flexibility to, see where things are at by the time we go through all these discussions and an RFP, and we try to kind of thread the needle here of having someone there at the right period of time, keep the building inhabited, get some revenue, but not interfere with our longer-term plans.
Right.
Well, I think it's kind of a catch-22 because while we don't want to commit to an extensive lease, right, in terms of 2 years, 3 years, we're also faced with finding a tenant that wants to just go in there for a year, right? And who really is going to want to do that, depending on, the condition of the inside, what the condition is of the equipment they want to leave, all of that. So it's kind of like trying to find the sweet spot of what time period's going to work. I would probably say my gut is 18 months to 2 years if we're not scheduling to demo, if we end up demoing until 2028.
Right.
That gives you, kind of satisfies both sides. But, I mean, it's really a no-brainer that we even have to debate whether or not we would consider just leaving this vacant and sitting there without potentially equipment. I mean, it's, I don't even think that's worth consideration. Right?
Could I just answer the one question that might be useful, that I didn't get a chance? The discussion with the Athenas family, and Marzi, feel free to correct me, was the idea that it would be delayed until spring of next calendar year.
For the auction.
That would be, yeah, and it's
Oh, so
not,
it's just really 6 months?
it's a delay to get back into its.
We can have a
I think the
conversation.
idea is,
Or that's the starting point?
There's
So-
two separate things, though.
yeah, I
Kurt-
mean,
The
So
auction,
if, assuming everything works out in a way that lines up with what we're discussing, it would be a delay in the auction, and a future short-term tenant would have an opportunity
To
to
negotiate.
purchase
right.
equipment directly. It is not a delay that's indefinite. It would really be something that they are doing to our benefit, not necessarily to theirs, to delay it, because in their discussions, I believe, with their vendor, it was sort of right now is the last good time to be doing it, before you get into Christmas and New Year's, and then it would be spring again. So the idea would be, it's a brief delay for them that gives us an opportunity to try to get some of these ducks in a row. The one thing on the RFP ASAP is having an idea of what we're asking. So is it 18 months? Is it 3 years? Is it 5? That will obviously impact what the results are, but also when we draft it, I'll wait. It would impact how we draft it and how we score the responses, knowing we need to set the parameters that we want, and that will impact who's responsive to us.
right, there's a little chicken and egg in terms of
Right.
how you release that RFP before town meeting without having had the authorization.
I think without the authorization, that's,
Pending authorization.
Yeah.
that needle is easier to thread than
Yeah.
knowing what we're
Flexibility
asking
in the
for in
RFP,
timeline.
Dependent, yeah.
I think we could say we will award pending authorization.
Right.
The idea that we're not giving them any sense of timeline will inhibit the number of responses that we
People
get.
respond. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I think we need to be,
Yeah, understood.
try to be as specific as possible to give them an idea of what they're getting into. It's the sort of potential option of equipment, but it only being an option, an opportunity to review and then a conversation between the equipment owner. Like, we're the middleman in that
Right,
conversation. And we're literally just asking the Athenas family to allow us to find them a buyer, potentially.
Someone to negotiate with, it's not
Somebody to
even a buyer
negotiate with,
necessarily.
yeah. So, I mean, it's grateful that they would even consider it, so that's nice.
And are they doing this, what is it that they would want in return, if anything? Have they said from the town, or any
We haven't.
consideration?
We haven't talked about consideration. It was the idea that it would no longer be occupancy and use. It would be some sort of,
Okay.
not storage, but a license to leave, it's,
Yeah,
it's leaving equipment behind as opposed to operating a going
Right.
concern.
okay.
I mean, for me, I would say the RFP scope would be at least till the end of 2028, because I would want the flexibility to be able to utilize, if capital came to play on in 2028, and the decision was made to reduce the building, then that would be the longest you would want an occupant there.
Right.
We don't even know if that, I mean, as most capital is, as we go forward, it's like a best guess estimate. So, and that's really was a placeholder we put in related to conversations that were had before the reuse committee. And now post the conversation with reuse, how does that affect things, and what does that look like?
Right, that was just as presented last year at town
right.
meetings.
And that didn't
Always
contemplate
change.
the church lot or part of the church
Right,
lot. And so
right.
now that that's being contemplated, what does that change for us?
No, please.
No.
I believe you that we will like it, but I just want to try to keep the,
Keep the meeting.
Yeah, it's-
If you know what the auction value of the items are, and the town matches the auction at a bid, and not retain ownership of the equipment. You know, its market value is because it was established, you can rent it to someone else with the building intact. Later on, you can't
We really
take the
can't
building down and sell the items out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. I think, going down these roads, you get into more complex situations where, like, we are not restaurateurs.
Right.
We're not in the we're not even developers, guys, and we are acting like it in some regard in some instances. So it becomes a sort of a slippery slope when we start to go down these paths of where you sort of draw the line and say, that's just my 2 cents of it, but.
Agreed.
I think the goal should be the 3 years, because, it's much easier to go shorter than to go longer.
Right,
So
and
the goal
it's
is
just up to.
3 years,
Up
to 3 years, and then find out what flexibility we can get with them and what we can do and,
Up to 3 years,
Up
subject
to
to
3
town
years.
meeting authorization.
Yeah.
right.
Right?
And
And
then
then-
work within their parameters to try to give them a really good deal and facilitate holding on to their equipment and then letting that flip for them.
And so would we need a warrant article for this warrant related to the potential storage, or lack of a better term, of the equipment if the Athenas family so allowed?
We believe so in talking with KP.
Okay. So then,
Really?
and you said you guys have, because you're so good, you've already looked into that, or?
So, yeah, the ability to license a permit, a revocable agreement, a revocable license or permit is something that the town has the right under Chapter 40, Section 3
Right.
of state law. That's the select board. Under the charter, it's actually designated to my position.
Oh,
However, in this case, because the community has very clearly given direction at town meeting, KP's recommendation is that we continue for this particular parcel, and in this particular case, we should continue down that road because it has already been established in this case that this is how we would like to do it.
okay.
And it was something that I had multiple conversations with Tom about to figure out, what the normal authorization process could be and what this should be, and his recommendation is that this should go before town meeting.
So to be clear, we didn't have to ask town meeting to allow us to keep the Athenas family there from the beginning?
Correct.
Okay.
However.
But we've set
it was-
precedent now
And it
on the
was,
parcel.
it was also part of the purchase, I believe, which is something that made it more complex than a town-owned, non-occupied school building is what I have the ability in my role, given through you, to allow for a license or permit. And so this is outside of that because it was all part of sort of one transaction where they withheld rights to be able to continue to operate.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense.
So that means we would then do an extended lease, or we would just be doing a license?
So you,
It's easier just to do a
I don't
license.
represent the town, however,
Right.
I would think that there are rights, privileges, and obligations under the lease agreement that would no longer be applicable. So it
Right.
makes sense to allow that agreement to terminate and to
Just go to a license.
facilitate a license agreement that would just relate to the
The
obligations
property,
going
the
forward.
property rights that they
Specific
have
property rights related.
would terminate at the end of
Mm-hmm.
our agreement. That should not carry over if they're just storing
Yes.
for this short period of time.
Okay.
It's rights and obligations, just to be clear. It's not that, it's for both us and them that it should
Yeah.
expire. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure this is going to make my colleagues really, really excited, but normally when we do have topics like this, do have time for people to comment about it.
Okay.
So I think we probably, especially since we've kind of started down that path, we kind of need to
Yeah.
continue.
Let's do it, Doug. Great suggestion.
Can I just ask, is
I
your
will-
deliberation substantially complete before we turn it over to that? So that if there's topics that you all haven't yet discussed that you had, I just don't want you to withhold something and wait before we turn, just to
Yeah,
give
do
it
we
some
feel like
order.
we've concluded?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Just
and
to give
I
it some
will-
order going forward.
Yeah, and in the vein of order, I will limit comment to 3 minutes, just so that we are able to continue and everybody can speak, if you don't mind. Who would like to speak? Brian, please. Why don't you
Could
come
you
to the
come to the
microphone so
microphone?
folks at home can hear? And then introduce yourself, although we know you, not everybody does.
Brian Watson. in listening to ideas about schedule, 2026, 2027, 2028, it is really hard to figure out what the end date of a lease should be, say, for example, or something else, if we as a town and a select board don't know what the final plan is. Sitting there, my thought would be, if the select board could identify what the final plan will be, then that allows the select board to fill in what has to happen between now and then. And so our committee, the Hawthorne Committee, has completed its analysis of the single lot site, and a week from tomorrow we'll make it official with a vote. But we have decided, we have recommended a plan for the single site. We have drawn 4 or 5 or 6 plans for the double lot, although they include the entire church lot, not a portion. I heard you say tonight, possibly it's a portion. So our plans show the whole second site. But it would seem to me, because we've gone through the process with the single site, so we've established a bunch of principles, so I think the second site will go a lot faster. I think our committee, even though it's very diverse, I think our committee will coalesce around it's only a recommendation, but I think we'll coalesce around a recommendation for the second site maybe in 3 months. So the select board having that in mind, it's just one more piece. It's a recommendation only, but it would be one more piece that the select board could look at and say, and think about, if that became the ultimate goal, and let's say it involved demolition of the restaurant, the select board could then easily fill in how long it will take to get to that plan as quickly as possible. I guess part of what I'm saying is we want to get to the ultimate plan as quickly as possible. So the idea of renting it for a year, maybe that's fine. The idea of 3 years, just seat of the pants seems excessively long, because unless that's the ultimate plan, that it's always going to be a tenanted restaurant. But if we think there's a pretty good chance it may come down, then you want it to be as short a time as possible. And I think the select board could have that ability to make a decision, given the pieces of information. Like I said, the Hawthorne Committee sort of feels a sense of urgency because we know that this is underway. So we sort of have, 2 paths that are both working simultaneously, but at some point they need to relate to each other and help inform each other. So I just thought I'd put that in because it does sound really long. 3 years sounds really long if that's not the ultimate plan. It simply wouldn't be necessary. Oh, one last thought.
Hurry up, Brian.
Yeah, one last thought. One last thought. Our committee has gone through this, and we're in agreement that
We are over 3 minutes, so.
Yeah, there are a number of options. If the restaurant were to be demolished, the town, for example, could split the site.
Brian.
If the back half is park and the front half is developed.
Thank you, Brian.
A developer can do it. Just keep in mind that a developer could tear
Brian.
down the restaurant.
Yep, thank you.
So,
Thank you.
As part of another plan.
Understood. Additional public comment? Online, no. Okay. Oh, Maura's coming up, sorry. No, my apologies.
So just real quick, since you're thinking, is the capital component just to pay for tear down? Is that what you're talking about? The capital component of it is literally just for the building to get raised?
Demolition.
For demolition, okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep, so it was posted in capital for 2028, the demolition of the Hawthorne Restaurant. As a placeholder during the initial conversation, post-purchase of the lot.
Okay, and so there's nothing else in capital in terms of build out of the space or anything? And how much was put in capital for that?
I believe it's 2 million.
So it's an out year in the capital plan, so it's presented at town meeting. The only ones that you're actually voting on each year is the current.
Current, yeah.
Right, so it's
like a long term.
It's like a placeholder.
Just a wish.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So at town meeting, they present the plan, so you have a context to your vote, but it's only that 1 year that you vote on each town meeting.
Okay, well, we're thinking about capital. I know that you guys have circled back, which is just follow up on capital. Just to kind of follow the projects is great, and I know it just comes to mind because we're speaking about capital. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Here comes Mr. Patzios, here he is.
Charlie Patzios again.
Thank you.
All of your ideas so far have been that to be able to negotiate with the Athenases to keep the facility open. But what I haven't heard is the nuclear option, which is if they decide not to stay, you really need to have that fire drill exercise. What are you going to do if they decide to leave and they're not going to?
They are
leaving.
They are definitely leaving.
There's no question.
They are not staying. The only thing that would stay, to be clear,
Is
is
the
the
equipment.
conversation about the equipment. And the only reason that conversation, I think, is being had is to put forth multiple avenues of potential solutions for a non-vacant building.
I was just hoping that maybe you get them to stay with the equipment.
We
already
have
tried.
asked that, I
Already
think, 3
tried.
times now. We did not want the nuclear option, for sure. We were asking them to stay. They had a 1-year lease with a 1-year option, I believe, is what they had. So they have already stayed into that extension period, and they are no longer interested in staying, and that was a conversation had by the entire family. Mary Ellen asked again when we talked to them about the equipment.
Thank you.
So,
And
thank you.
They gave it a few days' consideration. It wasn't an immediate answer from their attorney or from Anthony.
Okay, so
Anybody else?
just in thinking about the length of time being up to 3 years and that feeling like a long amount of time, what was sort of my first thought when I heard, in an ideal world, we would already have the recommendation from Hawthorne. We would already have a secondary recommendation about the second site from Hawthorne. We're talking about potentially, if Hawthorne comes forward with a vote, then they're going to present to us, then we're going to have deliberation. So we're talking months away, and those months are winter months of a vacant building. So I think unfortunately we just don't have the luxury to wait, and that we have to ask at least for something to fill the gap up to a certain period of time. I understand the criticism, and we may face, I mean, personally, I think 3 years is not that long, because you're asking somebody to invest significantly in that restaurant, and it's a very large building, and it's not in pristine condition. It's served this community very well, but for a very long period of time. And so I think it's just the ask on the table needs to be realistic to what the facility warrants. And to be honest, I don't even know who we would find at a 3-year ask. I'm hopeful, but I'm not in the restaurant business. I don't know if that's even a realistic ask, so.
And there are different levels to this, right? I mean, to me, I'm just starting with 3 years for the authorization from town meeting to have a lease up to 3 years.
Correct.
As we move through the process with the church, with the reuse committee, with the RFP, we may have a better sense what,
Right.
Which path?
maybe we start with, maybe someone's willing to sign one for 18 months plus a 1-year option or
Right.
something. We'll see where we're at that moment.
Yeah. All right, so do we want to take a vote so that the Hawthorne Reuse Committee at least has a very clear sort of thoughtfulness about the time frame, at least, of what we're thinking? It's already been stated that they're gonna come to vote on like one site of a project.
Right, they're in,
So,
yeah, they're in the process of finalizing their project. I don't see how this plays a role in
Okay.
what they're doing right now, so
fair.
I think that's totally separate. I think what we should do right now is just go to our final session.
Thank you, students, for spending your evening with us. It's been a long day. We love having you. Staff, thank you so much for all of your time and your planning. Families and prospective students, if you haven't yet had a chance to see our library and innovation center or our health and wellness on the 2nd floor, please visit.
Let's go see the health and
Are you Vanna Whiting?
We need the health and wellness.
Learning as part of your day that we manage here with the health and wellness department. Again, heading into our last session, thank you again. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
So I say, I think we should just give Nick a clear path
Yep.
Yes.
on how to carry on.
Would you like to propose a clear path?
I just think the path would be what you've already started, just finding out what all the options are with, I think we have to put something in the warrant you know.
We can talk about the warrant piece in the warrant.
Correct.
So that's okay, so then,
So I think
Do you need a
his
motion
path,
from us, Nick? Do you need a vote to authorize you to do X?
I think the plan, as I hear it, is that we will draft an RFP that would be up to 36 months
Yes.
please.
with subject to authorization
Subject to
by
authorization,
the
yeah.
town meeting, obviously.
Right.
So the closing will be, I think ideally, we're going to have to make the closing the first week of December, after town meeting.
Yeah.
Like, we'll have it posted for a month and, or hopefully close to a month, and
Marcy,
see
what's the
what we're able to
standard?
get.
Do you think this,
What's the standard for, put out an RFP?
You can do it
30 days?
and within less than 30 days, but I would imagine that somebody would probably want to come and do a site visit, and that's something else. that-
So let us put together the schedule,
Yeah.
knowing that it's going to be after town meeting, but it will be posted saying, here's the timeline, here's the closing date. Closing date would be post-town meeting. All these proposals and any action we take is subject to authorization of town meeting.
Yep.
And we can prepare it with KP, community development, make sure it's in line with procurement law. We'll report back to you, and then ideally, it would be that if we're in line with those general terms, that we can post it, even if we're able to complete this in the next 2 weeks, and I'll report back what's posted.
Okay.
We can always make edits to it if we would like, but rather than slowing it down where we draft, wait 2 weeks for a vote and move forward, our goal should be that we'll complete the work on it in that time and get it posted, and I'll report back
Great.
at the next meeting.
Right, and then meet with Anthony.
We already have a call scheduled for tomorrow with the attorney to
Okay.
explain what our timeline looks like, and this will be part of that.
And also, could we get authorization to negotiate on the use or extension or the ability to leave the
Yeah.
equipment?
Correct.
Yes, so that would be part of the warrant conversation.
Right,
We
so-
would need to put a warrant article forth to,
But we're asking for the same idea that, subject to approval of town meeting, that we can have that conversation.
oh,
Right.
right.
Yeah, don't
Okay.
let them take the stuff, Nick.
Well, They have been very willing to have conversations with us.
How's that for direction, Marcy?
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks for
Sure.
setting the bar so low. They've been very good about having open conversations with us, so hopefully we will be able to come to an agreement.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that since we've come up with some clear time now, you can feel confident and they can feel confident that we have Plan B, because Plan A was they stay, and so now we're moving on to Plan B. So you don't need a vote, or you're good?
I think if you guys are good with that, we have all
We're good.
discussed it.
I think it's very
in
clear,
detail.
so.
Yep.
Okay, great. So we will then close out item number 1 and move on to item number 2, discussion and update on repairs to the fish pier.
So I'm happy to provide you a quick update. I'm sorry that Gina was not able to be here this evening to talk about the planned rehab of the fish pier. As you know, I staff the Harbor Waterfront Advisory Committee. Thank you, Danielle, for continuing to be our liaison to the committee.
Thank you.
The committee is an advisory committee to the select board. So we wanted to update you, the committee, I should say, I'm sorry, wanted to update you on some of the work that's been ongoing, including the planned rehabilitation of the fish pier. Last year, town meeting allocated $150,000 to make improvements to the pier. We we received a copy of a report and analysis of the condition of the pier from Smith Marine, and that was done last year. Harbor Waterfront Advisory Committee was able to review the proposal and work with myself and our staff, including Gino and Natalie, on the procurement or the bid for the project. Unfortunately, the original, as I stated, the original estimate was $150,000. We had used $10,000 to make improvements to the camera repairs, and that was done by facilities with Max and the facilities department. So we had $140,000 in remaining. We held the bid opening in August, and there was only one bidder from White Marine, and the bid price was $195,000, $750. So as you can see, we had a shortage of approximately $56,000. Gino has been in contact with the lowest bidder to find out if we could just take several of the agenda item or several of the scope of work and really try to address those repairs this construction season, or sort of, off boating season, off beach season, so it would be during the winter months that the work would be done, or during the shoulder meetings. So the discussion is ongoing. We hope to hear from the contractor by the end of this week whether or not we can reach an agreement with them to do the work. So that was just something that, again, as part of a committee that provides, information or reports to you, we wanted to give you that report. I'm happy to address any questions if you have any.
Could I just add to that as well? Gino included this in the list. Assuming that this would move forward, included the ask for additional funds in future capital years with the meeting we had with Patrick, understanding that we have a shortfall, and if we're able to do some, that means we will necessarily be coming back to complete the work. So I just wanted you to know that it's not that we took off that part of the scope and have forgot about it. Gino's already included it in future requests.
So there's not a request for a vote or anything else, we just wanted, this is just an update.
Can you just say, like, how extensive are these repairs? Like, what is the?
So none of it is really critical, right? So there are some, I think they're categorized by color, right? We didn't have any real red critical items. It was more orange-yellow type of thing. There's the possibility that some of them can be put off, and we can just utilize that 140,000 that's left and do the things that are really, like, critical. There wasn't anything glaring, and the committee went through this, and I was there for a couple of the meetings, where it was like in need of urgent repair, right? So a lot of it is stuff that we have a little bit of time. If worse comes to worse, we can go ahead and just use the 140 that's left to address what they really critically need. There's nothing urgent. It's not going to collapse. It's nothing of that nature,
And
but
some of them are safety, some decking repairs, repairs to support the piles, bracing some of the berths.
The ladder, I
Again,
think.
decking the ladder, some fuel line repairs, unlike others. So they're, as Danielle had mentioned, they're not that critical, but
Right.
repairs that, maybe there was some deferred maintenance that it should be done, and now that we have the funds, that we wanted to try to address them.
So it definitely seems then that you could reduce the scope and fit it into the
I
budget
think
we
so.
have. Yeah.
That's what I feel. That's my gut.
What about grants from the Harbor Seaport?
Well, so that's something else that, as you know, we always look out for any kind of funding available. Unfortunately, this year, we didn't have anything that we could match. As you recall, the last grant that we received was for the fish pier, for the design of the new pier, and that was something that was not very well received by the community as a whole. So I think that now the committee, and I would imagine the finance team as well, is taking another look to see if, could we make some of the repairs as the Fishermen Alliance and some of the individuals who use the pier, they think that it meets the needs of the community, but if we can kind of take care of the regular maintenance and look at the items that should be repaired, so therefore there isn't like that deterioration because of defaults in, regular maintenance.
So really, I think, a lot of time, so much time was devoted into this new pier idea that we kind of just forgot about the regular maintenance that needed to be done. So this, 140,000 or 150,000 allocated is really stuff that's been, the past couple of years that you've needed, right? And it kind of got put on the back burner because we had this kind of grandiose idea of this, $5-10 million pier that ultimately we found wasn't going to be something successful with the community. So I think it's, time to definitely actually get those repairs made, right, and put that maintenance work in that we needed. But, to your point, Doug, it's not, I don't think anything that, there's nothing glaring there that says you must put in 200,000 plus right now or it's going to fall apart. We're not in that type of situation, but we do want to do some maintenance.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to use this euphemism, but like when you have a used car, it's like how much money do you put into it before you go out and get a new car?
Right.
So I know that the scope of the pier as planned was not well received by the community, but we've heard from resiliency, we've heard from climate action that our pier will be underwater in the not distant future.
Absolutely.
And it will face potential storm surges in the next 10 years that could potentially demolish it or create it, put it in such disrepair that we're looking towards new pier anyways. And
So
that's not
we can't
in any
forget
way to
about
say
that idea.
keep deferring. It is just to say,
Scale down a bit.
what is there process going forward where we're thinking about either how to modify this pier in order to prevent some of that. I think we're in repair. When do we get to be,
Proactive.
I want to say proactive, but I know we're probably not even close to that, but
No.
how do we take that next step, given the sort of overall defeat, the community defeat of the
So allow me to
Here is-
take the opportunity to go back to the Harbor Waterfront
Yeah.
Advisory Committee, maybe try to schedule a meeting with Climate Action Committee and just really have a thorough discussion and maybe together identified the next step. Because as you know, the Fishermen's Alliance was really not supportive of the new pier project. But at the same time, let's figure out like how do we address rising sea levels and also the needs of the fishing community, as well as the recreational fishermen who use the pier right now.
Yeah, I just have to say, I guess my remembrance of that situation is a little different than the way it's, you guys are presenting it. I'm not really sure we ever brought it to like any kind of community vote or anything like that. And, you know, there may not be any perfect solution, but I do think that we do have a Kleinfelder study underway right now, right, about the entire shoreline and resilience efforts and what's going to need to happen. And so I think, in my mind, the larger pier project had to be paused because we need to understand the overall solution for the fish house, for the pier, for the entire coast there, and then the pier has to fit into that. So it was more of the order of things was out of order.
Well,
I'm not so sure that's completely accurate, but that's your view of it. I mean, I think, you know, I remember attending a community meeting where there were no fewer than 50 people there who were adamantly opposed to looking, or this town considering a pier of $7 to $10 million in that range. And I think that was pretty, I mean, I heard it loud and clear that way, but maybe that's just my interpretation. But that's not to say that we don't need to do something and certainly look at a pier. We definitely need that. That's, you know, certainly Kleinfelder will come into play. But I think the bigger concern then was how could we afford this? What else do we have on the dock? I mean, there was a lot of stuff, I think, brewing at that point. And I think, too, the fish house itself is often overlooked and completely ignored in terms of what that place needs for, you know, as a historic building, you know, we just have, it doesn't exist. It's not a consideration, and it really needs to be, right? So it's not just the pier, but that whole spot, that whole area, to your point, from a resiliency perspective, really needs attention.
And that is part of the study that Kleinfelder is doing right now, just as a reminder to all of us that, you know, I think, Marcy, within a few months, right, we should have the results from that, and they'll be, you know, presenting very specific solutions to how we address those things. And then we'll have to go through a significant community
Was
process.
that the updated report that they're doing that we used ARPA money for?
Correct.
Yeah.
And where are we, have they at least sent you a first draft, or has the Resiliency Committee seen a first draft?
We have members of the Resilience Committee on the core team that's
Okay.
working with Kleinfelder on it.
Great.
I think, Doug, just to expand on what you're saying, I think your recollection is true, and I feel like I was at a meeting that Danielle was talking about where it sort of felt like similar to Hawthorne, that the conversation was being had around the community and not with the community, and that members of the community who utilize the pier the greatest, or even just community members, were not feeling like the pier represented what the direction they necessarily wanted to go in, or it was a misunderstanding of how we got to the point that we were at. And so I think that it was tabled, and it should be picked back up after the Kleinfelder conversation. And I think that we just need sort of like a more realistic, I don't know if it's like either phased approach to the peer support, or even sort of like, I'm going to go back to the cars, the Camry, like multiple options related to the pier. It sort of felt like when we saw the option that came forward, it was like lots of bells and whistles. We weren't really sure why. It's sort of like the width of it and the turnaround and all, like it didn't all sort of make sense to all the parties. So I think a more collaborative conversation is probably in process, and then we'll have some data to back it up. So at the very least, we should be looking at the Kleinfelder report to say, okay,
Yeah.
this is the timeline for what needs to be done to the pier. This is the least we have to do to the pier, the least. If we're going to be doing something to the pier, we're already there doing construction. What can we do to give it a glow up that it needs within reason?
That was a glow up.
A glow up, yeah. You know, do you know that term, Doug?
No, I just want to make sure people caught the G. Yeah.
A glow up, not a blow up. Yes, a glow up. All right. Okay, if there's no further discussion of glow ups, we will move on to item number 3, discussion and possible vote to approve and sign the final set of schematic design documents for the redevelopment of the Hadley School, 24 Reddington Street. Okay, Marzi, is this you too?
Yep, absolutely. So thank you. Including in your package, hopefully you have a copy of the schematics plans, as well as some of the comments that we had received today. At our last meeting, the chair of the planning board provided to you with comments from the planning board, and again, they dealt with lighting, bicycle parking, some architectural alignments from stairs, roof massing, sort of internal access to the lobby for better flow or client experience. They also made recommendations or discussed configuration of the elevators and bathrooms on the rooftop, as well as some consolidation or review or reanalysis and redesign potentially of the lobby and some of the administrative spaces. Again, these are comments from the planning board. They did talk about lighting, in particular, dark sky compliant lighting, and that was for the parking lot as well as the entrance points, as well as the entire site plan for it. The lighting continues to be a theme across all comments that we have received to date. Those comments were also included from the Open Space and Recreation Planning Committee, as well as voiced at both of the public meetings that we have had to date. Additional comments was also to look at streetscape and then landscaping, also looking at historic design integration to assure that buildings would be in line of the architectural sort of theme of the structure of the building. Open space talked about native species, the need for landscaping, and again, green infrastructure, lighting, again, as I had mentioned, talked about that perhaps looking at pavement materials that might try to decrease heat island effect, as well as the need for newly landscaped and planting beds in areas that we could, and again, native species. The residents' comments focused on the need for community space and what that could look like, concerns about, again, lighting, as well as noise impact, rodent and traffic flows within the area, as well as fencing or shrubs that would create some privacy for the residents in the rear of the property, relocation of play equipment, I think I mentioned noise, the concern about parking and traffic flow, as well as idling of cars. Some residents expressed the need for, resident.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Marcy. I was following you in terms of where you were referencing, and then I just seemed to have lost you.
Okay.
You went through the planning board stuff, and then you went through open space.
Yep.
And then are you on to?
I'm on to I'm not sure if you have that in front of
There's
me.
a
'cause I'm
Hadley
sorry, I
community
did not-
space.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't,
I don't know what that.
we don't have, in your packet, the comments she's talking about from the public meeting, I just looked through, are not in here.
Oh, I apologize for that.
No, that's
I just thought
okay.
that we could talk to them.
Is there a committee these are coming from? I'm sorry, I missed.
No, it's just
We
from the
had
public.
These are those two public meetings.
Public meeting,
Public
sorry,
meetings. So
okay,
these
thank
are,
you.
these are residents'
cumulative?
comments.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to go back. I feel if you have any questions for planning, from the comments of planning board or open space, and I think you should have in your package, probably community space
Yeah.
and the requests that were made. So again, I'm happy to walk through those. that the space should accommodate groups of individuals for residents. There was a request for potentially up to 25 individuals, space that can work for meetings arrangements, that could be closed off for sounds, for the meetings to be, have some privacy, or the ability not to impact the hotel guest. The request that the hotel provide tables and chairs for the use of the community groups using the space, including Wi-Fi accommodation, and the reasonable access to schedule the space up to 4 times per month at least, as well as reasonable advanced reserving of the space for at least,
Can I just ask this Hadley Community Space, who this is coming from? Is this just a compilation of the comments from
This was
the public?
based on the community meeting we had and feedback that we've gotten
Okay.
over time.
Oh, okay.
All of
So
this
just
is,
cumulatively,
all of
people
the,
putting out-
everything
This is what
that,
people requested.
everything she's referencing is the result of different groups that have put an effort together. I wouldn't assign anything to any one
Okay.
person necessarily. I think in the case of the community space, we met with folks to try to understand the intent and the the desire
Right.
based on the language that was inserted at the end of the article, which is, a sentence or two that
Right.
gives direction, but we wanted to make sure that the conversations we were having were informed. And we had that meeting and then spoke to Dixon earlier today, actually, both Marzi and I. And it was certainly a productive dialogue because in the past, we've been saying we want community space.
What is
Right,
it?
but haven't really
And
defined it.
He's been asking what, it's
Right.
just been 2 ships in the night, kind of. that,
Sure.
So he was asking, what is it that you're looking for?
Right.
What is the type of thing that would work? And I think his feedback is that they will, there's a commitment to trying to come to an agreement on this. There was a productive discussion. He wanted to highlight that there is a balance that needs to be struck for them, which I think is fair
Sure,
between both the community and the business that will be running there. And, he highlighted that there may be different vendors that operate, like the restaurant and ballroom as an example, as opposed to the owner of the rest. They could bring in a contract, someone to do that for them. So these are things that he highlighted for us that they need to continue to balance, but we outlined sort of this framework that it's a space that fits, 25-ish people, that there's a schedule in advance, but I think it's fair to say that we would want to balance revenue generating for them and our community use. But, there was certainly the commitment to an open and honest dialogue and discussion about what could and could not work. But having this meat on the bones from the folks in the community that are most interested really allowed us to move it from the conversations that have been going on,
Conceptual
at least with him, since the first time the schematic designs came, to here's a concept. And now he said, I want to go back and talk to the team a little bit and figure out where we are. So I don't know that we'll get everything here. I don't know that everything he gives us next time will be what we want to settle on either, but it certainly will start
Starting
a
the
back
So
and forth.
how does it work? We have a signed LDA, right? We have a signed LDA, and my understanding of community space was that it wasn't just private to the hotel, that community space was anyone from the community could go in and enjoy that section of the hotel. I never thought that it was like, we're gonna have a room there.
Right.
And I'm concerned about putting any type of pressure
Right.
on
The developer.
a developer, on the proprietor. And I think that's where my concerns are. I don't want to get into, hey, that's our room, and we get this,
Right.
we get that, and the PTO's here, and the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts are here. I think we need to have real clarity on what does that mean to this board?
Well,
Oh,
Perfectly.
This is Ms. Otto. I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you again to all of our students volunteering and speaking to students and families. Thank you, staff, for being here late. We really appreciate all your time and energy. And we're excited to have all of our new students join Swampscott High School. Thank you again so much. See you soon.
I think, to their credit, they did not say no. We're not having this conversation. This is shut down. We're not interested in this. This is not what we thought community space was. They're willing to engage in a healthy dialogue about,
Right.
sort of what that looks like.
Right.
And so I think we go forward in that vein, being the same mirroring their,
Right, well, that's what it's been
ability
like
to
dealing
go
with them.
forward.
They're very,
yeah.
they're very
Cooperative.
easy
Wanna
to
make it
deal
work.
with,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think
I agree,
that's-
we don't, I don't want to sit here and ask for cheese and crackers 3 times a year, right? That's not what the goal is. It's to define what community space is, right? And just know that there is some, in some form, we're going to have that for the people in this town. But I think Nick kind of understands, what
Yeah.
vein we're going in, right? We're not, it has to be accommodating, X number of people, we have to have tables and chairs, we're not going to hold their feet to the fire in that respect, right? Where it would jeopardize, the whole deal, right? That's not what we're trying to do.
Yeah, okay, but we've got, to me, this page on community space gives a lot more definition, and it seems very reasonable. It's not like a dedicated room for the town's use forever and always, and no one else should go walk in that room or anything like that. It's
Right. So
very
I think-
flexible. So.
I think that's what Nick's saying. They saw that, and so now it's
Understand.
sort of figuring out how we paper that and how that comes to fruition. And just because it's an awkward ask or whatever, doesn't mean we shouldn't ask it. It was part of the warrant article,
Yep.
and we should be, asking for the things we feel like we've committed to. To your, I think the definition of community space spans a big gap, and so let's see where we get.
I trust Nick to handle this one. I think he's
Yeah.
on the right track.
And again,
Marzi
credit
too.
to the community development
Marzi
team
knows.
without the relationship
Yeah.
that they've built, we wouldn't be able to have these conversations with
Absolutely.
either of these parties, so credit to Marzi and her team.
I was trying to pull up the email, but I received an email from a neighbor. I reached out to
have
that
it.
neighbor.
Did we all get
to
that
s-
email?
Maybe
Yeah.
we all got one. Okay, great. So,
I have to, that was an excellent email. It was
and
very
I responded
enjoyable.
back to the individual to
I
let
did
them know.
too.
The concern is the driveway pullout.
Yeah.
And if it faces a particular home, what sort of light pollution that will put in that home and how that may be a detriment to that home. I think that, from what I heard, Mr. Mallory was very quick to say, we will immediately look at that. The entrance right now faces one of the exits face Blaney Street. And it is not direct facing to a residence, and that the hope is that will continue, correct?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we definitely have to take a look at it, to also
Ellis.
make sure that it would not impact the resident on the other side of Blaney and Reddington too.
Okay.
So Nick and I had a call with Dixon today, and he said that they're definitely looking at it
Great.
to look what the alignment could potentially look like and what the traffic pattern could be.
Okay.
The other issue was the letter that we received. They felt that there was not adequate notice on the meeting. And I think they said that the first meeting they felt was adequate. And I do agree with them. We just have to do everything we can to give, a ridiculous amount of notice and to actually get the phone numbers or email addresses of every person that's touches that area, so that they should feel like, oh, I'm listening, another notice from Marzi. That's what they should be concerned about.
So we definitely, we acknowledge them, we just have to figure out a better way to figure out how we post a meeting, because I think that there's some education or outreach that we all need to do. As you notice, some of the meetings are posted as events, some are posted as meetings, some are just posted on the sidebar of the website. We are consistent in working with the town clerk, that we always post, all of our meetings are posted on the notification board between town hall and the library. We also post them on the town website. We are working with Diane. She's been amazing to work with us on social media and trying to reach a population that way as well. At the end of the meeting Monday night, I started to collect some email contact information to residents and asked them told them that we will definitely reach out to try to obtain a better mailing list or better notification, so that in the future we'll be able to directly send them an email blast in addition to sending out postcard and notifications about the meeting.
I think that'd be great.
This project, I also wanted to, just to let you know, I think that maybe some individuals in attendance thought that, okay, well, the select board is voting on this coming up Wednesday, this is it, the project is done. So we just want to make sure to really restate the fact that per the LDA and our process to date, there are still going to be meetings. The select board still needs to approve the final approvals for the design.
Yep.
We still have to work with all of our regulatory boards. We had concerns about lighting and the design. We work with the planning board for them to review and submit comments to us. We will work with the Board of Health on rodent management plans and others. So there's still an opportunity to comment at all along the process. So, I just wanted to convey that and assure that our residents that this is like a lengthy process. We're just beginning of the process, and right now it's just a starting point that the developer has updated their schematic or the design that they submitted as part of the request of proposal. So now you see that this is a little bit more defined, and then there'll be additional meetings that you will see further plans that really show us the materials that will be used, maybe even the color palettes and like others, and obviously have a clear, traffic patterns as well as, like the entryways, and a landscaping plan identifying the native species or the type of plants and shrubs that will be planted in there.
So to those points, is there a timeline on the town website about this process?
I
don't think that we have, I'm
Well, as
happy
an
to put a
exhibit to the
timeline.
LDA, there is a timeline.
I know,
It
so
should be, there should be an amended timeline based on the last amendment to the LDA, but I know that's not what you're saying, but I
Yeah.
just want to say it's there.
Right, so I think that would go, if we had a timeline on there, and we gave some explanation, because even though I've been sitting through these meetings, I don't literally know, okay, what things, are kind of firm after schematic, and what things can still be changed or altered all the way up until, final drawings that we have to come back and approve later. And if we had some just examples there to give a sense of like, don't worry, it's not the end of the world right now, these 11 categories of things still can be altered or commented on even 6 months from now when the select board has to approve it again, and it's also going to go through the planning board, and you'll be able to comment there. I think that would just give, reduce the anxiety. People would understand kind of what's happening.
Well, I think to that point, in bigger picture, the website and our communication through the website has been a constant bone of contention for a lot of people in town, right? It's difficult to navigate. It doesn't give you a true picture of every meeting that's happening at every, so to be short, we need to work on that, right? We need to work on the website and how it better relates and informs residents, because we're doing a subpar job, and that's putting it nicely.
Just to be clear on notification on the website, they are posted there. The problem is the interface.
Right.
And so and I actually talked about this at the senior center, because it came out there's meetings and there's events, and the meaningful distinction from Civics Plus standpoint is that meetings are government meetings, events are not by a regulatory board or an elected or appointed board. So it was a meeting, and this was pointed out to us by citizens and residents. It was a meeting for this review of the Hadley thing, the Hadley schematic design, because it was not before you and it was not before the planning board. So how we share that information and that interface is the first step, and I literally talked about this yesterday.
Yep.
Because, again, it's meaningful in the way they organize information. It's not meaningful to someone that's searching for the information.
Right.
A meeting and an event is the same thing to someone that just wants to know what's happening.
Totally.
So that's among the many things. And
It would be great if we could just do away with that distinction. and just have
What'd you say?
I said it would be great if we could just do away with that distinction and have it all on one calendar.
It is on a calendar right now.
If you choose the drop down
It
to
is.
all events.
Yes, I'm saying, that's what, the user interface that we have is what we have to work within. And
Yep.
so there is a way right now to look at the calendar. The question is, can we make that the default?
The default,
That everything shows, and not even list them, just have the
Right.
mini default calendar that you
Yep.
click on to pop
Yes.
up and
That'll
see the
go a
week or
long
the
way,
day
I
or the
think.
month.
Yep.
I don't know if that can be done with what we have, and as with everything, if we really get into it, it
It's gonna
costs money.
us money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think we just have to be really cognizant of, our failure to inform people about how to look things up in that manner, it's leading people to think that we're trying to backdoor things or hide things or be, nefarious or deceptive, and that's really not the case. It's really a matter of we don't have the tools to make it show up the right way, or we haven't in the past, but we will work on changing that, right?
And I only made the point that it was posted because the team at Town Hall does get the things up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We have to find a better way for either Civics Plus to do it or go to.
And especially on issues that we know have, considerable, they're personal issues for a lot of the residents in town. It's almost better if we over-communicate, right, instead of under. So if it's not just the website, it should be emails to abutters, mail to abutter, however, we need to inundate people. I'd rather have people say, oh, you send me too much, as opposed to, you're trying to hide something, because that's.
Yeah, and I think we went through this a little bit with Veterans Crossing and setting up, like having a QR code and setting up a mailing list, and then having that sort of be a way to also facilitate information. Like maybe we should just be doing that for all of our construction-related projects that have abutter conversations happening, so that neighbors feel like there's a place to go and be heard.
Right.
And just to say, Doug, to put a point to your question, the exhibit, the milestone scheduled to the LDA, which we should pull forward and put in some fashion on the Hadley page as a separate document, so people know where to look once it's updated. And because it's all relative to the end of the due diligence period, Marzi, we should write some dates on here, because otherwise it's not meaningful to people looking at it. But there's the schematic design commentary, which is happening now, and then they have to submit construction drawings and specifications within 6 months of the end of the due diligence period. Then they have 15 months from the end of the due diligence, so 9 months thereafter, to obtain all of their permits. And then during that same period, they're obtaining their financing. And then because they are trying to obtain a lot of grant financing and financing through the state, I think some of these, I'm sorry, I was confusing it with them. I was thinking about veterans. Because they're obtaining this financing, I think it behooves us to have these conversations for the developer earlier when we see glaring issues like, hey, we don't want the exit to be facing a house. Because if we get too far down this line, they're gonna say, well, that costs us too much. We should have talked about that earlier. So that's why, to Marzi's credit, she has taken a compilation of a lot of folks' feedback. And it's important that we give it all to the developer, and not every box is gonna be checked, but it's important that we prioritize the things that are sort of like non-starters. Like, we need these things solved, and we feel like now is early enough for you to find a way to solve them.
Sure.
So, a little bit to my point, for myself right now, in terms of all these comments, in terms of like a vote tonight and what we need to incorporate and make a condition of approval of the schematics, I guess I would, I'm left feeling like, all these comments should be included as conditions, because I don't have any distillation of what is critical now versus can be addressed later. Inclusive of, the one that we don't have written, but the email about the light and,
The egress, yeah.
Right. And then, Marcy, were you reading some other community comments too that we don't have written down?
No, I was just kind of giving you an update from my notes from the public meetings.
Well, that's what I mean. Is that of any substance here that we should also be including in these conditions of approval?
So I shared those with the developer, as well as all of these documents were shared with them. And I just wanted to touch upon some of the major sort of themes that came out of the meetings. And again, the lighting was an issue, noise levels, decibels, neighborhood parking, because concern for parking, the landscaping, loss of privacy, fencing, continued access through from Elmwood Road through the project, because there's fencing right there. The need to keep the trees on the Swampscott Park side, relocation of the play equipment, pest control was another big topic of conversation that came out, as well as the, obviously, community space that we talked about.
Could
Just-
I ask
that's
a
probably
distinction?
10 or
Are we-
12 things
Are we
right
saying
there,
a condition of approval or information you would like us to convey with the notice that you voted for to approve the schematic design? Because a condition is very different than
I understand.
we're sharing the information.
I understand, but condition seems, I'm left in a position where I feel like I need to go to a condition, because if I just say, hey, I'd really love for you to look at this stuff, well, they can come back and say, yeah, well, we looked at it, but, well, for this reason, that reason, we're not gonna do anything about it.
I mean, I'm more personally concerned with anything that's going to affect any resident's enjoyment of their home and life. To me, that's lighting, right? I'm not as concerned, noise, right? Those things are things that would warrant conditional approval in my mind, specifically this lighting issue. I mean, that's a
The coming out of the parking lot issue.
Absolutely.
So that's a
Absolutely.
traffic
Traffic, yeah.
and
Yes.
circulation design. It's not the lighting of, like the static lighting of the
Right.
parking. Okay.
Right, as it
Well, but
affects this
I-
particular
Well,
spot
well,
on
well,
Blaney
the-
Street, right?
The static lighting in the parking lot is a,
And
is an issue too.
And it was raised by the planning board and would be, I believe, addressed
Photometric
during site
plan.
plan approval
Well,
and
so
others.
this is the comment I
This
was
is-
trying to make post Doug, which is, yes, the things that come before another board, it doesn't behoove the developer to ignore them, because when they come before that board, the first piece of paper they're gonna pull out is their comments from the schematic design and say, okay, did you take into account the parking lot lighting, yes or no? Did you take into, is there bicycle parking? Look at the architectural alignment, did they make so, I mean, yes, condition might be too strong of a word, but this is not their first rodeo, and they understand the business of the business, and if they come before the planning board for review, it's not going to behoove them to ignore any of these comments, because they're just gonna make them again.
True, but if they're just general in nature in terms of lighting, right, and they're not specifically focused on the lighting as it affects the people that live on Blaney Street, I don't want that to get lost in the weeds, right?
Well,
Like,
that
the
is,
planning board might be looking at a big picture, not looking at specific houses and how it affects, people that are right there, right?
I agree, and that's why I think some of these things need to be prioritized, but the things that are, like, to me, it doesn't make sense to say the schematic design is conditioned upon the items listed in the planning board review. It should say heavy emphasis should be brought forward, considering you will be going before the planning board, and these are the things that they've brought forward. But I do think that in my opinion, the schematic design should be conditioned upon that egress and the enjoyment of people's residential houses in that area, and making sure that that is in alignment.
Well, the next phase, not to be jumping ahead, they will have to submit construction drawings and specifications.
Yeah.
And then to go through each of the separate boards, like photometric plan will be required. That's something else that the planning board does look at and wants to see as part of their package. And I think that at the same time, we have an opportunity to do like a peer review of the traffic analysis, because you know what, is the design the best too? And obviously the developer knows that this is a concern right now.
Right.
And then how will they address it in the final, the construction drawings and specifications?
So you're saying that we still have
our first-
leverage during this is
Yeah.
just our first pass.
It's our
So-
first bite at the apple, not our last.
Right, so why can't we just say to make every effort to accommodate
All the things.
all the things that are mentioned here, with an emphasis on the enjoyment of people's homes and the homes in the
As it
immediate
relates to
area?
lighting
And resolution of the community space.
Resolution of the light, what did you say?
The community space. Resolution on the conversation
yeah.
related to community space.
I don't want to delay, though, right? I'm not.
We don't have
personally, I
the
don't
ability
want-
under
right.
the
So
LDA
I
to
think
delay.
that we don't want
We've
to.
asked for an extension, they've granted it to us. I mean, the only other ask is that we have to answer them soon.
Yes.
We have a little bit of time, but not, yeah. So at this point, I think entertaining a motion to have Marzi go forward and put forth an answer to the schematic designs is what I would be looking for from the board.
So I'll make the motion.
Second.
And Marzi, are you clear about sort of the direction of, we're saying, to take into account all of the items that were listed, but most importantly, the egress, the community space, and that we will be looking for those things going forward?
Do you have a copy of that email, Marcy?
Sorry?
Do you have a copy of that email?
I certainly do.
From that
yes.
resident?
I think I flipped it, so.
Can I expand a little bit? What you
Please.
said just the egress. Can we just say lighting in general, impingement on
As
the
it relates
neighbors?
to residents, surrounding
Yeah,
residents.
and noise. I mean,
Yep.
I'm not really sure how that would directly fit
Yeah, I don't know how
in.
you say, how do you say that, you know, the focus has got to be on the quality of life
Yeah.
of the neighbors in that area.
The light pollution or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's a part of the bylaw, so it's already part of the bylaw, so downlighting is required.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so that is the motion. We will, do we have a second?
Second.
You second?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Sorry, I'm so used to taking a roll call because we're never all here together, so. Okay, great. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is review of fall town meeting warrant for December 1st, including review, discussion, and votes on articles for inclusion in the warrant. Because we are so bad at communicating, have we made sure, you've been in communication with the moderator, correct?
Oh, please tell me you did.
I've been on the email, Diane has.
And I reached out to him, he was away until this week. We're
Okay,
trying to
great.
schedule
So I
time
just
to
want to
sit
make
down.
sure that we schedule time to meet with the moderator to discuss the warrant. And then also, I understand like the packages will go out, but the town meeting has been posted on the calendar and we have a space and all that's worked out, yeah.
Yeah, space, I don't, I'll have to talk to Mike Bryson, he's the one who does the postings.
Okay, let's just make sure we've,
I'll send him.
considering we're starting the holiday season, let's make sure we give as much notice as possible. If you're not watching this meeting, then you might not know December 1st is the annual fall town meeting. Which is, I think, is it not still called a special town
Special town
meeting?
meeting.
Because it hasn't been,
It's a special town, yeah,
Okay, so-
sorry.
that's okay. All right, go ahead, please, Nick, if you'd like the floor, or you want.
Do you want to go, Patrick? Do you want to walk? Patrick has
Patrick.
put this together. I'm happy to jump in at different points.
Yeah, I can step.
Is that all right?
That's fine, and then just jump in.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick.
So I'll do the page turn. Article number 1 is approval of bills from prior fiscal years. And there are a couple new ones that came in since we last looked at this. They were added to the bottom of the table. I think it's the last 3. Thank you, Diane. So this is a recurring article. We typically have some of these each year. I don't know.
Patrick, how come these aren't out on purchase orders? I can see
That's-
registry of deeds and ought to be on there, but
Yep.
fire equipment,
Yep, so that's a good question. Typically, we want to have the purchase orders in before goods are ordered. In these instances, we didn't have a purchase order open for these bills. Oftentimes, these are received after the end of the fiscal year. If we didn't anticipate them, there's no purchase order in. So to answer your question, there should have been. So these are exceptions.
you know, one from 2023?
Yep,
2 from 2023.
Big one.
that was brought up by a vendor.
What about these July 4th trophies for the select board?
Well, it's coming from our department. They weren't given to us, Doug, because unless you have one, I don't.
That was given to our former town accountant to be paid, and she didn't. So I personally gave it to her.
Okay.
So that's Article 1.
That's Article 1, no other
Thanks,
questions. I'm going to move on. Article 2 is to amend appropriation for fiscal 26. Yep.
Sorry, can I just go back? Is it sponsored by,
Okay, so we should try and address that. So typically, this would be sponsored by town administrator or select board. So I don't know.
We're not
We
finance
have-
committee?
Well, everything should be, it should really be the select board or the finance committee.
okay,
So, and I would think it's the finance committee, it's
because it's,
financial.
Yep, we could do that.
Have they voted on all this?
They have not.
Have they seen all these?
No, I would
Do
think
they
not.
normally?
They haven't had a meeting to discuss this.
How do we vote
They-
on these with the, I mean,
They're usually reviewing the warrant
yeah, but
after, so
Right,
Have
we
you-
went through this last year, too.
We generally take, so what we typically do is we vote after the finance committee, so.
right, so tonight you're voting on the warrant, you're not voting on individual articles in what your position is.
Like to
Fair
support
point.
or not to
fair
support?
point, we don't have to.
So it's a
You're right,
single
yeah.
vote at the end of the warrant to close with everything in the order
As
and
drafted.
as
Right.
drafted, basically.
Okay,
But then we come back to say whether we favor it or not.
got it, yeah.
And you'll
And-
note on each article, it says, Select Board will report at town meeting and Finance Committee will report at town meeting.
Because, yeah, because we won't have voted now.
Yeah.
I guess this is
In
the
this
opportunity to
instance,
vote now, and since we haven't heard from FinCom, then we will vote
All right,
post
so we're gonna
this
hold off
conversation.
on, so
Okay.
we'll hold off on voting.
So this is sponsored by Finance Committee, okay?
Okay.
Okay, that's settled. Article 2 is amending appropriation for fiscal '26 operating budget. These are two transfers that are needed within the budget itself. One to fund interim consulting services for town accountant, and another to cover property casualty premiums that came above budget estimates, and workers' comp would be the funding source because that came below estimates, and we were expecting that, but didn't have final numbers before May town meeting. So those are minor adjustments. The bottom line change is 0.
Okay, and that'll be sponsored by Finance Committee too.
The bottom recommended, wait a second,
Recommended amendment,
It's just,
We're moving between lines.
you're just,
it's
so why don't we just do a shuffle at the end of the year? Why are we doing this now?
Well, we know about these things now.
So just get it
seems
done.
more prudent to just to do
Okay.
it now, yes.
Got it,
It's an early shuffle.
okay.
seems more financially responsible to acknowledge if it's happening now than to wait. I think so.
Article 3, amend appropriation for fiscal '26 operating budget, collective bargaining agreement. So this was a placeholder to fund costs for any settled CBAs.
I do not anticipate that there will be any settled CBAs by then.
No chance?
I said anticipate, I didn't say no chance, but I wouldn't bet your house on it.
Yeah, you better not.
So is the preference that we remove it?
I would, for right now, I would prefer that it stay in and we can
Okay,
remove it or withdraw it, postpone it.
indefinitely.
Excuse me?
Okay.
Do it at the last minute.
Correct, exactly.
never know.
Yeah, we
So
can be
this would be,
optimistic.
this would be sponsored by us though, correct?
Yes.
Select Board?
Yep.
Okay. Article 4 is to transfer free cash for homeless and foster care transportation costs. This is a recurring article we have each year. We get funding from the state based on the expenses that the school department submits for this. And historically, we've transferred that into the school department's budget to offset the costs.
And historically, who has sponsored it? Do we know?
I don't know. I would say.
Select board.
Select board
Select board.
is fine. Okay. Article 5 and Article 6 kind of go hand in hand. So Article 5 is to rescind an appropriation from free cash that was made at the May town meeting. This was to put $400,000 into the Special Education Reserve Fund. And this was brought to us at the recommendation of the school administration team. There's a statute that sets a limit on how much can be in that fund, state statute, and this transfer combined with our year-end balance would put the account over that. So we're looking to rescind that vote in Article 5, and then Article 6 would transfer the unexpended portion of the school's FY25 budget into the Special Education Reserve in the amount of $94,000, and that keeps their balance at a level that, and that's in conjunction with an MOA between the town administrator and the superintendent that's in place. And so that was brought to us from the school administration and keeps their funding at a level they feel adequate in that account, but also keeps us compliant with state law.
What was the dollar amount that did not transfer in 2025?
There's $400,000 that was voted at the May 2025 town meeting from free cash.
And why didn't it make its way to?
It's,
Does it count?
It did.
It did.
They cannot exceed 2% of the total school budget and the reserve fund.
Oh, so this is not that it didn't move, this is it moved and it exceeded their limit.
This is it moved, and Cheryl noticed that they had exceeded, or would be exceeding, and wants, similar to making sure that we're doing the right thing with moving things around in the quote-unquote early shuffle. This is
Yep.
something where she did not want to be in a situation where we find out at a later date that there's a penalty for having exceeded the 2% limit that's laid out in the special act of 2016, I think it was, that created the ability for communities to have the reserve fund for special education.
Okay, so do we have 400,000 extra dollars in free cash now?
So if this article passes, the money will be returned to free cash, and that would be reflected, that wouldn't be available this year, but next time we get certified, it would be included in that figure. So
Can you
next
just,
year.
I really don't understand what this is. The Special Education Reserve Fund, so we had put in the 400,000 in the Special Education Reserve Fund a couple of years ago.
Yeah, just again.
And we
I
just.
thought we just added
re-upped.
another 200,000. You're saying we added another 400,000?
Or at the May town meeting, yes.
Okay, so we added 400 into there.
Which made it over 2%.
Mm-hmm.
So now we gotta give it back.
Which means we're gonna take 4 back, but we're gonna give them back their almost 100 that they had in excess of their budget at the end of this school year. So instead of 400, they're getting.
I think we need to have some pretty big conversations here. I think this stuff should stay in the warrant, but I think we need to have some bigger conversations.
Specifically about.
What does that mean?
Well, I think we need to have a better understanding. I watched the school committee meeting, and apparently they have $574,000 that was not used in the Nahant tuition, that they have now a revolving fund. They call it, quote, a cushion.
Okay.
So I think we have to have a conversation about the cushion, $574,000. I think we also have to have a conversation about where we really are with electricity fund. So those are the two funds that I think we have to get real clarity on.
But neither one have anything to do with this one that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, so I'm saying these two stay here, but as far as the overall finances and what there is out there, we have to have conversations about it.
Okay.
Who would these be sponsored by?
But we can go with Finance Committee. It was at the request of the school administration. I will finalize that. I think in fairness to this whole process of closing tonight, we will likely need to do a Teams/Zoom meeting at some point early next week because of the discussion around, we have a draft article for Hawthorne that I think we have printouts that I can share with you all. But with that, it's a single article for indeterminate time. We would put that up to 3 years. I think we actually would need 2 different articles. One is for the occupancy and use up to 3 years. The other one is for the sort of
License.
storage.
And storage.
So, we can adjust that language here, but I would want those both reviewed to make sure they're accurate and reflect what we need.
Yep.
So the closing tonight is not as critical, and we can make sure that we dial in the sponsored by prior to the closing. This one, we can say FinCom for now.
Okay.
And then 6 would also be FinCom.
Right.
In theory,
Yep.
if I was
Correct.
correct. So moving on then to Article 7, or are there additional questions? Okay.
Article 7, yep, this is a transfer of free cash to adjust the tax rate. This is a recurring article we typically have at our fall town meeting. So when we get through the tax rate recap, typically in the past, we've considered using one-time funds to reduce that tax rate. This would be the opportunity to consider that again at the December 1st town meeting.
So that will be on the next agenda?
Yes.
This is the full tax rate discussion?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And this is like in the neighborhood of the $1 million type of thing that we do here?
That we've done in the past?
In the past, yeah. I think last year we applied $850,000. We showed a whole variety of scenarios.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
And that's for the next agenda?
just from a timing perspective, that maybe we typically review something once and then come back and vote on it, and I don't think that is going to work for
December 1st.
the tax item for December 1st. So just to keep that in mind going forward, like maybe that is something that we should have thought about putting on this agenda. Saying that for myself too, because it would have afforded my colleagues the ability to sort of digest it and then vote on it in the next
Right.
meeting. So apologies.
And I'll just caveat to the tax classification hearing is one thing, right? And then there could be second bite at the apple to actually decide the free cash piece. That doesn't have to be decided in the same meeting. So
Okay.
if you have a meeting prior to town meeting, that's when that decision can be made and has been in the past.
We've done
we
that
just don't have-
before.
we
Yeah.
just- Right now, we don't have another meeting on the books, right?
Mhm.
So, but yes, to your point, we can absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we want this one to be sponsored by Select Board, Finance Committee?
Yep.
Yeah, and I would just make sure for any of these suggested sponsors by, we just look back at last fall town
Yes.
meeting and make sure they're in,
Consistent, yeah.
yep, consistent.
Okay. Okay, Article 8 is approved transfer of free cash for Conservation Commission. This was an article that was requested by Conservation Commission. They had a conservation fund set up by a town meeting a few years ago, and they have a desire to move interest that was earned on notice of intent filing fees, which are kept in a special account. The interest on those fees gets credited to the general fund, so they're looking to transfer free cash into this conservation fund so that they can actually access the interest and use it for conservation purposes. I hope I'm capturing that. Marzi's nodding.
Can this be sponsored by conservation, or does it have to be sponsored by?
I believe that it can be. That would be subject to review by KP.
Yeah.
And why would we do
Yeah, I
this?
don't-
If This is interesting, like, why, do we do this for any other?
No,
No.
this is,
Commission?
this
What
is
kind of
not-
precedence does this set?
Yeah,
Yeah, and how much money are we talking about in interest here?
and to be honest, I don't really even want to talk about how much it is, because the precedent alone, it shouldn't, I mean,
Yeah, I
maybe,
mean,
I really don't want this on there.
this is not against conservation, but this is just Historic is talking about setting up their own account.
Right.
What if they
Yes.
want to keep tailings, or,
No.
She does have her hand.
yeah, she has her hand up.
Do you want to speak to her?
we can speak to her, if she could keep it to 3 minutes, that would be great. Tony, we appreciate you.
Tony, you should be good.
Hi, yes. Just to go through, there is a special conservation fund, which is different from the fund that the Conservation Commission has where the fees go. The regular fee fund, I'll just call it, has to only be used for administering the Wetlands Protection Act. The Conservation Fund, which is set up by the Wetlands Protection Act, is the money that can be used for other purposes, such as fixing up conservation land. We had in the past, I think there was a warrant article to put the interest from the fees into this conservation fund so we could use it for these conservation purposes. Somehow that money didn't get transferred into a special conservation fund. This is a special fund that is set up by law, so it's not like something similar to what other committees might want to do. So I don't know, Patrick, if you can explain a little what happened in the past warrant article and why the money didn't somehow ended up in the general fund and not in the conservation fund.
Sure, I can comment really quick.
Sure.
There was a warrant article in the past that we had found, because I had been working with Tony and Marzi on this, that did pass to appropriate an amount from free cash. I think it was $16,000. But the way the warrant was written, the money ended up getting credited to their operating budget rather than a separate fund, and it wasn't expended, and it fell back to free cash. So it was kind of like a big nothing happened with it.
Okay.
So that's why it's being brought up again to actually appropriate the money into a separate fund that the conservation can access for the purposes she stated.
Okay, but this is an ask, so that warrant article was specific to a dollar amount? And it was specific, although it didn't end up in the right place. I think I would be more likely to consider a specific dollar amount reflective of what the original intent of that warrant article was for, rather than more of a carte blanche, even
Right.
though it is specific to a state mandated account with specific purpose. I get that there's a distinction made between that and historic, for example, that I just brought up. Yeah, I just worry about.
Why, if warrant article was passed,
Right.
and the money was allocated to the operating budget, not used, fell to free cash, why don't we just now fulfill what the original warrant article said to do?
Because the language didn't accomplish what it was intended to do. That's why it was, I mean, this was years ago, I looked back at it.
Okay.
So the way it was booked in is based on the way the language was written in the motion. So it was flawed, I would say. So I think this would be another bite at the apple to, pass the correct language to accomplish the intent of the
Okay,
warrant.
but now this feels like a different thing about,
Right.
didn't we talk about interest?
Yeah.
Well, it feels more broad than.
Well,
Donations and any interest.
Could I suggest?
just to clarify, so it's a special fund that's called the Conservation Fund that's set up under the Wetlands Protection Act. And the money from the interest of the fees, remember the Conservation Commission charges a fee for processing the permits. And that money goes into a special account, a separate account that the commission uses to administer the Wetlands Protection Act when people come for permits. But the interest from those fees can go into a special conservation fund, which is used for conservation purposes like trail work, whatever, fixing up conservation land. So I don't know how it happened, but the intent of the original warrant article was to take the money, the interest from the fees, and put it into this conservation fund so we could use it for non-administrative purposes under the Wetlands Protection Act. And somehow it ended up in the wrong conservation fund, probably just our general money that we get under the budget. I'm not sure, Patrick would know better. And since it wasn't used, it went back into the general fund. It did not go into a special conservation fund, which the Conservation Commission would like to have set up. So we have that fund, and other monies can go into it as may be appropriate.
But I guess.
So when is this from? When did this happen, that this money was appropriated? This is not recent, right?
This was, I think it was 5-6 years ago.
Okay, so I think we need
Right.
a little bit more understanding of what the warrant article was. And I think KP would probably have to weigh in here.
Oh, my God.
Are we comfortable with, and this is for you all, pushing this to the spring so that we can
Yeah, I think there's a lot.
iron
At
this
least,
out and
yeah.
understand if it's something that, language
Yes.
that needs to be adopted annually to move interest, and in
Yes.
addition to that, understanding if something went to the wrong place previously, that
We can
at
just-
the end of the year, we can fix that number.
Right.
And I understand it's a delay for Tony and the team in conservation, but get everything right.
Right.
And then also figure out what the path would be going forward if that interest isn't supposed to be going somewhere that it has not previously been appropriated on an annual basis.
Yes.
I think. Yes, I think it's important that we understand what was the original intention of the original warrant article.
Right.
And then, in that vein, how this modifies that going forward. Yes, I think that is the confusion, and we need those answers.
Yeah,
So-
we need all of that back.
Tony, could you and I and Patrick speak like the end of this week, beginning of next to get it started, but understanding that it's going to be a May town meeting?
Yes, that's fine. I will send you in the meantime a summary of what there's actually 3 different funds that the Conservation Commission has. So you can understand and see what we were trying to do with the original warrant article, which was to set up finally a conservation fund. But
Great.
I'm happy to work with you
Great.
on that.
Patrick and
Patrick.
Patrick and I will be in touch, and we'll make sure that we draft something with KP for the spring.
I think we're going to have to consider
Thank you,
setting up
Tony.
an accounting fee for the Conservation Commission.
Thank you,
Tony.
Moving on to Article 9.
So this, I can speak to it. This was one that the library is mobilized right now to be doing the work in the front. This is the side entrance that has been discussed for quite a while. We have pursued a grant that's a reimbursement grant for $250,000. It has not yet been awarded. None of them have been awarded, so it's not that we don't know no one knows if they got it yet. I talked to Jonathan. It is everyone's understanding that if that grant is not awarded, this will not go anywhere. But this is an appropriation because that award is supposed to be happening in the fall. So we wanted to get this lined up so that in a single mobilization on the front of the building, we could do all of the work and be able to move forward. I believe there's some savings in the original request that they had for that $100,000 delta that would still remain. So it may not be that the ultimate cost is a full $100,000. It's combining it with the front project and getting a reimbursement. But the request is for $250, which would be reimbursed, and hopefully some of that remaining 100 would come from savings on the rest of the project, which will impact it.
What does that do, Patrick, to our debt schedule for this year?
So for this particular project, there was a placeholder on the schedule in an outer year for this portion, this alternate on the children's entrance to the library, because we knew we were going to do the front entrance. We've been talking about that a lot. So this cost is well below, I believe, what the placeholder was put in an out year. So although we're advancing the borrowing probably sooner to do this work, obviously, it's a pretty good savings in the next, couple years when we were anticipating a larger cost. So I think we're okay.
Because I'm never a supporter of adding capital projects into special town meeting, but I think in a situation like this where, one, it would be really good for the library, it would make a big difference in there as far as making a better entrance, because it would bring the strollers could come right around, people could get right into the children's side. I think this is definitely a good idea.
And this is Max and Jonathan together. It's not simply a library hoping to get Max also sees the opportunity in the single mobilization being a benefit.
Yeah, and I think when they presented the front entrance, they presented the design of the side entrance, so we knew that this was forthcoming, although we had anticipated it to be a little bit further out. If we could...
If there is no grant, it would remain
wouldn't
further
happen.
out.
So then it'll remain further out, and it will be as discussed, so...
I think we talked about this last time. Has CIC weighed in on this?
No.
I think as an out-year project, but let me confirm that for you with Ryan.
Because they would be sponsoring?
Finance committee would sponsor it.
Bill Finance? Even though it's capital?
Yeah, so the capital improvement committee gives a recommendation as to whether or not, but the finance committee is the one that makes the vote.
All right, moving on to Article 10, unless there are...
Okay, Article 10 is appropriation for a park grant. I don't know, Marzi, if you want to, I don't want to put you on the spot, but that's your article.
Happy to update you on that, and as Nick has mentioned earlier, we did receive the park grant that will provide funding to replace the safety surfacing at Abbott Park. That's part of a Phase 2 improvement to the park, so we're very excited to be able to fix the surfacing at Abbott Park. Happy to take any questions, answer any questions.
So would we call this the last phase of Abbott until we have to go back to the first phase again?
I think so, right,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So as you notice, you probably have noticed, we've improved the sort of tot lot closer to Paradise. We had new equipment in there and a new safety surfacing. We did replace the basketball court. Our hope is to fence that in, so then this way the balls don't go flying into the court. So that will be something else that we'll be seeking funding for. And now, this time, this plan improvement will be for the safety surfacing. The play equipment is still in good condition, so we're keeping that. We're planning to do some sort of street furniture, maybe some nice benches, a couple additional trees, better gates in there too, because the gate's not working right now, as well as just some minor landscaping.
Very good.
What's the dollar amount?
It's 215,000, I think.
205.
205,810, sorry.
Thank you.
And 0 cents.
Wait, so what's the match?
The grant is for $100,000, and the remaining will come from the funding.
No, are you sure? If this says no funds shall be expended, oh, until the town, sorry. Sorry, okay, got it. So if the grant were not awarded, this is similar to Jonathan's project, we would not expend the funds. So it's just to make our money go further. Okay. This is not really relevant, but you brought up fencing in the basketball courts, if we could consider some lighting, because I think rec would love to have a outdoor men's league maybe, or women's league playing basketball on that court. Maybe some lights would help.
Open Space Recreation Committee was hoping that we can take on, sort of improve the lighting at Phillips Park. So that's something else that we're looking at.
So you're looking at doing both of them?
No, they're looking at Phillips first. Okay.
And then the draft I just put in front of you is what KP had put together. It's over to your far left there.
Yep.
Yeah, I got it.
That's the draft for the authorization to go before town meeting. Understanding now where we are tonight, we're asking for two different things. This would be the one that would be up to 36 months. And I would like to work with KP, and if we could get on your schedule to do a closing team remote meeting, we would have a draft of one that also is a license permit, whatever the appropriate language would be after talking both with KP and the Athena's attorney, to try to extend their ability to leave the equipment in place if they're open to postponing the auction. So this one is just you all being able to enter into that up to 36-month agreement. So I will fill in the dates that I wanted to put in front of you tonight. And then the idea would be that Diane and I can work with you all to schedule a remote meeting. I apologize for that, to close this all.
Should be good.
Okay.
Should we do it right before the financial summit?
Oh,
It would be ideal if we could do it earlier in the week next week, but if we have to, that I think that might be actually the last day we wanted to close, so we'll see what works for everyone.
okay.
And that will include updating sponsored by refining language where we talked about tonight, and
That would be sponsored by us.
these final.
That would be sponsored by us?
Correct.
Both of those?
Yes.
We won't put FinCom on that. And the park grant one would be sponsored by? Marcy. Sponsored by Marcy. FinCom or?
I will finalize all
Okay.
this, but yes.
Okay. So we are not going to entertain a vote to close the warrant because we have some matters left to attend to, and so then we will close this section of new and old business and move to the consent agenda. So I will give a little primer on the consent agenda because I am happy to report that we would like to seat the Poet Laureate Selection Committee. Diane has done yeoman's work to get applications in, and we are going to offer seats to all those who applied. So we had 3 applicants, so we're able to have them all participate, and I hope that you will support us in this endeavor so that we can get this off the ground, and then they will work with Jonathan at the library, in conjunction with Jonathan at the library, to facilitate an annual Poet Laureate of Swampscott.
Great. Great.
So I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. Moving on to select board time. very quickly, oh, and I just, I will start select board time, that way I won't be going backwards too much, but I think that you all were supportive of me entering in as the select board representative for the Poet Laureate Committee, so if you're not, speak now. And then there is a school representative vacancy still, so if anybody has any people who are itching to get on with us, please let Diane know, because we still have to fill that seat. And then as part of select board time, I would just like to say that we had intended to hold the first mini financial summit tomorrow related to capital. Due to some scheduling issues with CIT, we are moving it to the 13th, a week from tomorrow. I apologize in advance. This all came to be in the last 24 hours. And we are committed to keeping a close schedule on this, because the next conversation is really about budget philosophy and guardrails, and hopefully. And so we don't want to have that conversation too far into the budget season. And for those of you who don't know, this will be a joint meeting. This particular meeting on next Thursday will be Capital, Select Board, School Committee, and FinCom. And just from your chair to you, it is only going to be a 2-hour meeting, and it has a concise agenda. And because it is the first of what we hope to be many, I think the philosophy I'm sort of going to put forward is that we maybe have a running future items list. And as things come up that are not pertinent to the agenda, but still topics that we would like to discuss as a group, we add it to the future topics list, and that we don't go too far down rabbit holes, because we only have 2 hours and there's a big group of us and it's difficult to get us all scheduled at the same time, so we want to be wise with our time. So I just ask that we try to stick to the agenda, and if you have topics that you would like to see upcoming, send them to me and I will discuss them with Tri-Chair.
Do we have an agenda?
We do have an agenda. It was posted for tomorrow. Maybe Diane can send it out to us.
I can do that, yeah.
If you wouldn't mind. Thank you. So now it will be the 13th, and it will be at 6:30 rather than 6, because I think that's an easier start time for some people who commute.
To Danielle's point, do you happen to remember what the agenda is? Just, I mean,
What the
is there anything that
for
we
this
should
one?
have, like,
There's a,
prepared for in advance, or?
It actually should be in your Teams meeting link. Did you guys get your Teams meeting link?
I don't think so.
so I know the parts that the staff side, Doug, are responsible for. It's we'll have.
That I'm responsible?
No, the staff was responsible for.
Max, Gino, and myself will be presenting on capital at sort of a high level. We were thinking things above 100,000 as a starting point. We'll see where that cutoff is to make sure there's not so many topics to run through that it could overwhelm a meeting of that length. We'd obviously be willing to talk to folks separately about anything below that, but that would be a discussion, and I believe it was discussed that Ryan, I think, would give a general or broad overview of the goal behind a 10-year plan, knowing that even with a 5-year capital plan, year 1 is funded, 2 is a priority, and then 3, 4, and 5 become aspirational at some point. And I think Ryan was going to talk about their process, where they're also looking back to see what's gone well and what hasn't, what we can be doing differently, but also how the 10-year works to help socialize projects that might be out there and better inform voters as they make capital decisions in the near term.
So the scope of it is really capital, right?
Yeah, so I think
and how
in
it-
Tri-Chair we discussed, like, it's hard to have a conversation about future financial policies if we're not talking about capital on the horizon. So the idea is to discuss the 5-year plan, to, understand sort of how the 10-year plan is ruminating and where things lie, and then let that help educate us for our financial policy discussion next.
When do we have multi-year revenue and expense projections?
November 15th, per charter.
I think revenue, I don't think revenue and expense are the same date, unless I am misremembering the charter.
I think it's revenue.
I think it's revenue first,
Right.
and expenses come, I think, December 12th or 15th, it's somewhere in there, but it's revenue first, expenses second. It might even be earlier in December, but I know in December, we're preparing that for you, sharing it with you, and then that's the point at which the select board provides priorities to myself and the finance team to better inform the work that we're doing and putting it together.
And is that part of the many meetings
Future
that you've
discussion?
referenced?
Just being fully transparent and vulnerable, we have only talked about the first two. And it's sort of like, I don't want to put the cart before the horse and put too many ideas, because I'd rather it be a community conversation that, okay, we had this conversation and now it seems like this is the direction this board or would like to go in. And so really the really strong two takeaways were capital, which also includes a sub-conversation about Clark, and then financial guidelines. And then we were sort of like, okay, let's reconvene and see where that takes us going forward.
And
I haven't had as much of a discussion as you guys, I'm sure, did at Tri-Chair, but it seems to me, I've been in favor of the capital first, for sure. Well, only thinking about it for a minute or two here, it does feel as though you get the capital on the table, you get the multi-year on the table, and that could really help to frame any modifications you want to make to the financial policies.
Yeah, and I think just from a timing perspective, there's no way we're going to have another mini summit before those conversations happen before the select board. Because it's already the 13th of November, and he's saying sort of the end of November conversation about revenue, the middle of December conversation, so maybe then.
Oh, yeah, no, it's okay if
Okay.
we have it. I'm just saying, if we're gonna keep trying to have collective conversations, that's just 2 cents about it.
Yeah.
And it's chicken and egg to that a little bit, because the policies lay out how they want the projections to be done. Like, new growth is X percentage of past growth. It's a little bit, we can say, like, this is where we are under the current guidelines and policies. And then you can
There's some sense.
twist the levers, pull the levers
Pull the
after
levers, yeah.
to say, based on what we see coming for revenue and or expenses, we need to lower this, raise that, leave it where it is for this year, and that's something to take back and have further discussion for. So it can work in both directions, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, and I think there's an effort to have the cadence of these be sort of once a quarter, once we're on a roll, but maybe they'll be a little bit more frequent to start, because we have to get sort of aligned on a lot of topics that have been lagging. But then going forward, like, it would be like once a quarter, we would be having these joint meetings to sort of talk about these kinds of topics as they come up.
Yeah, okay. I guess, okay, I had an assumption in terms of what you were saying. I realize now that you said that, that if we have one in November, I was kind of thinking we might have another one in December, another one in January, because if we're heading towards a March 1st budget.
Yep. And
That
then-
we'd want to have these things kind of having discussed
Right.
ahead of that.
I think that may be true for this year, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
that's not, that maybe is not true going forward.
How does the timing on the CPA stuff come in to play here?
That's a fully separate track. I mean, yes, in the broad scheme of things, you could think about things coming through CPAs instead of capital. If
Right.
That's where you're going, but, CPAs were just, I guess,
Seating the committee?
yeah, we're just seating the committee for, I guess, my sharing for select board time. Diane is enthusiastically gathering people into getting the committee members have all been appointed, and they're being seated, and getting a first meeting set up with the support of the Community Preservation Coalition. A statewide organization provides a lot of support, getting the committee off the ground, and they're going to have to go through their process of getting set up, and they have to do a needs assessment. Nick was pointing out earlier today that established committees are already in the process of recommending projects, working through the vetting of them so that they're ready for proposal at town meetings in May. So our committee is going to need to
Be on the
kind
ball.
of move along. Have to really look at the requirements, literally, as people may recall.
It's a good thing we have that gentleman who's already has.
I know, yes,
background in
our
this.
appointee, right?
Yeah.
Yes, is an experienced person. And I think that they would still be required to make recommendations by May town meeting for the minimum of the 10% in each of the 3 domains of housing, historic preservation, and open space.
Is that for this town meeting, this May?
No, for May, I believe, because we're live.
That's what I mean,
Yes,
this
from
May.
This coming May,
This
not
May's
this
town meeting. Right.
that we're talking about tonight.
Right.
May's town meeting.
So this town meeting, yeah, this is
2026.
going to be a special town meeting. I'm talking about for the town,
Yeah.
our town meeting in May.
Yeah, I have
So
to confirm that we would be required to do that 10%. I assume so, we're live.
Collecting.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So there is potentially $1 million on the table in May.
Yeah, I don't, again, the state match part wouldn't be probably
Right.
there by that point.
Right.
So 750 or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Anything else for your select board time, Doug?
No.
I feel like that's plenty.
Yeah.
Thank you. Danielle, you have anything?
Well, I just want to give kudos to Nick and his team for really being ahead of the game with how we're going to approach this Hawthorne situation. And it's clear you put a lot of work and research in, so I appreciate that. So thank you, Marzi, also. Last night was the Recreation Commission meeting, and I am just astounded at the number of programs and plans that the Recreation Department has. Lofty goals, but they are right on track, and I'm really impressed to see all that Charlotte is creating in this town. So kudos to Charlotte and the Recreation Department. Good things happening.
The Italian festival is great.
There you go. Says
That
the
was-
Irish woman in the room.
I had all my Italian flags out. I had my Italian employees there too, so.
There you go. Thank you,
know, we're
Boosters
very
Club, for
happy.
that.
But the lines, I want you to know that the lines for the food never slowed down.
Of course.
People really had a great time, so I just think the Recreation Commission did a really great job.
Yeah, absolutely great. Kudos to the whole committee, because they really are, we've got a few new members on there, and they're really working their butts off to do some great stuff, so thank you for that. That's all I have.
Okay, Mary Ellen.
So I want to say thank you to Nathan Kent and Nate Beisheim for putting on the meeting tonight. And I just wanted to, I wanted just to remind the select board, we received an email asking to do the rodenticide bylaw. I'm not in support of doing it for special town meeting, but I am in support of making sure that this is on for the fall. This has to do with, when birds of prey are scooping down and picking up mice that ate the rodenticides. This will help, save their lives, things like that. So I know that Deb Newman said that she would put something in as a citizen petition, but I really don't want to see a citizen petition. I just want to see, this is common sense, and I know that people from the Conservancy and things like that, they've had meetings about this stuff, so I'd like to see that get supported. And just want to remind everybody that we do have a pumpkin toss coming up.
This weekend.
It's this weekend, and I don't know the exact time, but it is on the website. It is on the website, really big. So it's taken up the whole website, so.
I do my best with what I have to work with.
Right. And then, as the liaison to the retirement committee, the retirement committee has an issue with a coding issue. I think I emailed you from that actual meeting. So I just want to make sure, the select board knows that when members of the police department were paying into their retirement, there was part of the retirement that shouldn't have counted towards retirement or something like that. So there's a code issue. It's not the first time there's been a code issue. So my time as the liaison, every year there's one or two people that come in and they've put in large amounts of money into retirement, or they've received money from retirement that they shouldn't have, and that this coding issue continues to be a problem. So over the last couple of years, I'm constantly told, oh, it's taken care of, it's all right. And then at the last one, it just seemed like this is enough. And we really have to find a way to go in and either do our own audit and double check and find out how to fix this, because it's just not fair to town employees to have to either give back large sums of money or come up with large sums of money. And the retirement committee, they work real hard, and they try to get everything done. And at the last meeting, this did not go over really well. So we just need some kind of help, and I really appreciate your help on this.
Sure, absolutely.
And Patrick was in the meeting too.
Just to give the details on the pumpkin toss, it's Sunday, November 8th. It's put on by, sorry, I'm reading 9 and I'm saying 8. It's put on by SWAC, Solid Waste Advisory. It's from 10 to 1 at Phillips Park. Please note, the pumpkins must be free from decorations, paint, and candles because they end up going to compost. So
You cannot throw them at your select board number. They have to go
I mean,
into the trucks.
if you want to make a donation to your, to the Anchor Food Pantry, you can throw pumpkins at me if you want. I also do want to acknowledge the mobilization in town that has happened related to the loss of SNAP benefits. I have seen and been a part of like many conversations related to community coming together to support members of our community who rely on SNAP benefits. Just appreciate that that is occurring, and I know from the PTOs to Anchor to businesses are donating gift certificates and funds from their own profits in order to make sure that our neighbors are not going hungry, and that is why we live in a community. So thank you.
And to your point, just to, this is a parent plug, but my daughter is lucky enough to be in Becky Gruthius's classroom. She runs the Goodwill Gang Club after school, and they are doing a food drive for Anchor Food Pantry. And I will happily send you a list of items to donate if you like. But kudos to Mrs. G for really like taking this on and getting a group of elementary kids to understand the importance of giving back to community. So they are also doing a food drive
Awesome.
to benefit Anchor.
Yeah, and in case you don't know, there are 1,000 families in Swampscott who rely on SNAP benefits. So it's affecting every community, including ours. So
We also have the employees at Town Hall collect items at Town Hall, and then a member of Diane O'Brien actually comes by and picks up stuff, so.
I don't think, for Anchor?
Yeah.
I think it goes straight to Anchor now.
Yep.
I don't think Town Hall is collecting.
They're doing every Saturday too.
I spoke to Diane O'Brien about a week ago, so they are still collecting.
Fantastic.
We made a little change, and
Okay, good.
and so we are still collecting in there.
Diane's working overtime, really. She's so valuable to this town.
And I forgot, I just want to also thank the Athenases for putting on a lunch today. That was, that was really above and beyond.
Thank you for mentioning. Do we know when the last day they'll be opened is, by chance?
No.
Only because I've gotten lots of emails about when the last time people can get
Popovers.
popovers, so.
Yeah, no, that is
Call.
not
find
part of
out.
the discussion.
Not part.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thanks, everyone.